Welcome. We are live on a Friday. This is Hot Mic across the OutKick network, live from our downtown Nashville 6th and Peabody studios with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. It's lonely at the top. It's lonely in the studio right now. My desk partner, my mate, Jonathan Hutton, not here. He's out. Well-deserved day off. He'll be back next week after Christmas. I am Chad Withrow. And someone who's becoming very familiar to our audience, familiar to the show, Kelly Stewart. Kelly in Vegas on with us as special guest co-host again today. She's been crushing it, going through all 3 hours of the show without any complaints each and every time she joins us. Kelly, how are you on this Friday?
Oh, Chad, it's Friday, casual Friday. I am very happy for it to finally be Christmas weekend, much deserved day off for Hutton, but I have not seen you get a day off yet. So hopefully next week you enjoy your vacation. I'm going to be in Nashville in studio filling in for you. Man, that Hutton guy sure takes a lot of vacation days, though.
Yeah. Lately, he really has. There's no doubt about it. Kelly, today I feel like it's that final day of school, the half day sort of, where you're getting out for Christmas vacation or for some sort of spring break, where the teacher just puts a movie in and you watch the movie all day. That is my mindset. That's the vibe of today's show. It is a casual Friday, as you said it. We are going to, first and foremost, have a hell of a lot of fun on today's show. Looking forward to that. Trey Wallace is going to help us do that in about 15 minutes. Former NFL player Lorenzo Alexander coming up in the second hour of the show. And it's a gun show at 5:20 Eastern time today, 4:20 Central. Mike Gunselman of OutKick will up the energy with us. That's coming up later in today's show. Plenty to get to on the show today, but we got to start with the biggest story today, and it's from Kelly's home state, or at least the state where she's located right now. Florida State is suing the ACC. Here is the official statement from the Florida State University. The Florida State University Board of Trustees today filed suit against the Atlantic Coast Conference in response to years of mismanagement that has left its member schools trapped in a deteriorating multimedia rights agreement while preventing them from joining other conferences because of, quote, draconian withdrawal penalties. The suit filed in Leon County Circuit Court says the ACC has failed to fulfill its stated obligations to generate substantial revenues and maximize athletic opportunities for its members. It details how the ACC's mishandling of negotiations with ESPN has deprived members of tens of millions of dollars in annual revenues and put them behind other Power 4 schools in the competition for educational advancement and to appear in elite athletic championships. Now, that is from Florida State. So what does the ACC have to say in response to this? Well, the ACC releases a statement after they're being sued, and this is the statement from Commissioner Jim Phillips. Florida State's decision to file action against the conference is in direct conflict with their longstanding obligations and is a clear violation of their legal commitments to the other members of the conference. All ACC members, including Florida State, willingly and knowingly re-signed the current grant of rights in 2016, which is wholly enforceable and binding through 2036. Each university has benefited from this agreement, receiving millions of dollars in revenue, and neither Florida State nor any other institution has ever challenged its legitimacy. This from the Atlantic Coast Conference. I have been one of the biggest defenders of Florida State since they were screwed out of a college football playoff spot. And read my lips when I say, like George H.W. Bush back in the day, read my lips. They were screwed by the College Football Playoff Committee. They deserved a spot in the playoff. An undefeated Power 5 conference champion that went away from home, scheduled and beat LSU, won at Florida, did everything they did, and still accomplished a conference championship with backup quarterbacks, and in the ACC championship game, a third-string quarterback that features the best defense in America being left out of the college football playoff while one-loss conference champions are in is a screw job from the College Football Playoff Committee. But what has happened now is Florida State has gone from righteous victim to the stage mom that is deranged, and when their daughter doesn't get the lead in the play, decides to try to get the entire school board fired. And then when she can't get the school board fired, she pulls her daughter out of the high school and puts her into private school. That's what Florida State is doing now. I think they've gone from righteous victim to pretty crazy response to all of this, especially considering what Jim Phillips stated in this statement. They signed the grant of rights. They knew exactly what they were getting into in 2016. I know there's some other complexities to this we'll get into with Trey Wallace coming up also, that Florida State is claiming there was some sort of renewal of the grant of rights that wasn't voted on by 2/3 of the conference, and that is a breach of contract. We'll certainly discuss that. But, Kelly, I look at Florida State, and I understand the complaint. I understand the desire to get into a better conference situation. But this is clearly an effort, and maybe it turns out to be the smartest thing ever. It's an effort by them to get the ACC to say, fine, you can leave without paying us $500 million or whatever the insane number is to leave the conference and go somewhere else.
That may be the case, but not as a news flash to me or any other Florida State fans down here in the Sunshine State. Florida State's been trying to leave here for a while. There's always been rumblings, right? When Oklahoma and Texas said they were going to go to the SEC, Florida State dipped their toe in the water and elected to stay in the ACC. Here's kind of my question. Where are they going to go, right? So the Pac-12 is no more. 4 of those teams are now part of the Big 12. The Big 10 picked up a few of those guys themselves as well as the ACC. And then the SEC just took on Texas and Oklahoma and has pretty much decided they're full. So maybe the grass might seem greener on the other side as it stands today. But next year we have a 12-team college football playoff in which the winner of the ACC would get in. I've seen lots of different opinions on where Florida State would go, but I think maybe only the Big 12 would be willing to accept them at this point in time.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And I think the initial assumption, I've always felt this way, Kelly, and I know you're big on this too. I think culture matters, right, in terms of a school. I mean, college sports, college football especially, one of the reasons we love it so much is there's a vibe to it, right? It's not corporate. It's not cookie cutter. There's a feeling about being in a conference. There's a feeling about being around other like-minded schools and fan bases and feeling like geographically it makes sense, culturally it makes sense. I've always felt like Florida State and Clemson are SEC schools in terms of culture, right? Fan base-wise, football first, all those things. They always seem to be a little bit misplaced, honestly, in the ACC. So that does make sense for them to want to be in the SEC. But like you said, does the SEC want them? Do they offer enough that they want to share all the money they're getting? We know Texas and Oklahoma mattered enough to them, but does Florida State, Clemson? Because those are the two I think that could pair up and bolt together. Miami is another one I'd throw in there. But, I mean, what makes sense for Florida State is to be in a better financial situation. But does that circumstance make sense for Big Ten, SEC? Because really those are the two we're talking about, right? Big 12, fine. But it's Big Ten and SEC. Those are the two conferences that everyone wants a piece of and wants to be a part of.
I got to backtrack you here. What's so wrong with the Big 12? Well, you think they don't play smash mouth football? You think we let in the Deion Sanders teams of the world? They're not very good. I
don't think they play smash mouth finances, because the Big Ten and the SEC, what Florida State is saying here is we don't have a personal issue with Jim Phillips or the ACC. It's a math problem. The ACC doesn't make as much money as the SEC and the Big Ten. Big 12 isn't making as much. And we know the Big 12 doesn't either. Then that's what everybody's saying.
But I also think looking at the future of conferences is going to be really important, right? If they already signed a 20-year deal in 2016, what are they going to sign next? Right? I think Brett Yormark's doing an excellent job in the Big 12 as commissioner. And you mentioned being a football conference, that would be the SEC. I think he's trying to make the Big 12 a basketball conference. So I would have to agree with you. I just don't really see Clemson and Florida State fitting in culturally, not geographically, but they just don't seem like the right fit. I do agree they would fit in well at the SEC, but the SEC just restructured everything as is. The Big 10, I don't see them really being a fit. And then I got to also correct you on the Florida State being the best defense. They might have the best defensive line in college football, but we all know Michigan has the best defense.
Yeah, Michigan very good too. It is funny, though, that we talk about strength of schedule and no one brings up that Michigan's only 6-7 spots better than Florida State from a strength of schedule standpoint. But no questioning Michigan is the number one team. Another problem I have with Florida State being snubbed. I think
I didn't say Florida State didn't get snubbed.
No,
that
you
never came out of my mouth. I would agree that an undefeated team should have got in regardless of if their starting quarterback was in or out. That is a precedence that has been set plenty of times. Notre Dame got in 2013 when they shouldn't have, because K-State lost as a 13.5-point favorite in Waco, Texas. Those types of things happen. If you win and you win outright, you get in. And that is what's always been said. And this year, they decided to change the narrative. And that I do feel bad for Florida State, but you're absolutely right. Now it's, whether the conversations had already been happening, the backtracking, the victim playing here now as an excuse to leave your conference. Maybe it was the nail in the coffin for them.
Well, so the inevitable future of college football that I know we've talked about when you've joined us on the show here, Kelly, too, that eventually it's going to be this power, not even conference, power league that's going to exist. It's going to be about 55 to 65 programs that can afford to play at the highest level. And it's going to be Big 10, SEC, Big 12, and then whoever else they decide to take from the ACC or another conference that can do it. We all know Florida State will be in that big boy group. Clemson will be. Miami will be. North Carolina will be. There will be programs in the ACC that will be fine financially to compete in that new league. My biggest question is, and this kind of goes back to the debate we're having right now about the division of the conferences. Will the individual conferences, and I'm going to put the onus on the Big 10 and SEC right now, those two conferences, will they ever actually do what is necessary and best for the sport as a whole, as opposed to only protecting self-interest? Because I don't think they're aligned in the future. I think the SEC and Big 10 could break away and make even more money and screw over everyone else in college football and continue to collect checks from the networks more so than the other leagues and put them behind. But to me, that's not what's best for the sport. What's best for the sport is more schools to get together, revenue share, and do what's best for the fans. But I don't think the SEC and Big 10 are concerned about what's best for the fans.
No, and I don't think they ever have been. I mean, if we want to backtrack a few years, let's look at the difference between what the two conferences did during the COVID season, right?
Yeah.
Culturally, they're not the same. I think it would be very, very difficult to get them to agree on a whole lot of anything.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And it would take, and it's just not the Big 10 and the SEC agreeing on, not going competition against each other, because what makes the most sense to me is that this is going to be a central governing body. You're going to have divisions. There's not going to be conferences anymore. You're going to have a Southeast. You're going to have a Midwest. You're going to have a Northeast, a Southwest, Midwest, all those things, just like the NFL. Someone's going to come in and set the schedules for you, but we're going to be able to keep the top programs in college football together playing for a unified national championship. But in order to get there, it's going to take the Big 10 and the SEC to agree a truce is in order, and that we're going to have to stop fighting each other. And in doing so, we're going to have to allow others to have a share of the pie, because that TV money, we're going to talk about ratings a little bit later. That TV money isn't infinite. It's not going to be there forever, right?
I think you have to realize some of these schools have more money than God, Chad. You want to know why Mizzou and Nebraska and A&M bolted from the Big 12 originally? Because they got tired of Texas telling them what to do with the Longhorn Network. And, everybody said the Big 12 was going to crumble. Then they kind of built back up the pieces. When Texas and Oklahoma said they were going to bolt, it's like, oh, get ready to speak Mountain West, the rest of you. And that's just not what happened. I think that coming together as a collective, you're absolutely right, is the big move. You said we're going to talk about ratings later. I saw some rumblings that there may be a merger coming up between a couple of big networks, and that could be good for at least college basketball, as far as I'm concerned, come March. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds, because if you're talking, we're going to just have divisions as opposed to conferences, or maybe we have two big conferences and 4 divisions on each conference, like you said, with the NFL. how many teams have to get in the college football playoff? What are we doing? Like, I mean,
it's going to change.
It's going to have to be a 24-team playoff at that point. I mean, what if you win your division, you get at least a wild card spot to have a chance to get into the playoffs. Then it becomes a little too much, not like college football, right? We have 13 games these guys play a year. If they're lucky enough, they get into a bowl game. 14 games for some of these kids is a lot. You know, they're also going to school. They also have other aspirations. So you kind of have to wonder also the landscape with NIL money, with the transfer portal. We're starting to see kids stay in college an extra year because they know they can make more money than the NFL. They're going to start asking for more money every single year. I mean, we've already seen very obvious, I'll call it tampering in the transfer portal. Little side note, but there's nobody there to regulate it. I mean, I think college football as a whole right now is just the wild, wild west.
Well, and a bigger topic for another day, I don't think many conferences or sports keep in mind what fans ultimately want first and foremost, and they should do more of that. You and I are both big college basketball fans. I don't want them to touch college basketball and conferences in college basketball. I think it's fine the way it is, but football is going to drive the ship, and something is possibly going to have to change there. I think will change some point soon. We'll talk to Trey Wallace about it with OutKick.com. He's coming up next.
Now she is coming out and saying that playing for the United States is the, quote, worst job in the world. And she's saying this because of the criticism she garnered, which obviously she brought on herself by doing all of the horrible things that she did over the course of her career. One being that she felt super compelled to kneel for the national anthem and not show her pride for the United States, despite having the platform and representing the country in a way that very few people on earth get the ability to do. Listen, she's a leftist. We all know this. She is fully on board with biological men playing in women's sports. That's another thing that she was getting criticism for, which again, she should, because as a woman, she should realize that if she did allow biological men to play in soccer, let's just say, her success probably wouldn't have been even close to what it ended up being. Because as we know, I'm going to say it time and time again, men, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Women, as great of athletes as they can possibly be, they just do not add up to what men are capable of. But obviously, as a Democrat, as an elite leftist, Megan Rapinoe feels the need to play the victim card, as they all do. I just can't get behind this. Playing for the United States is the worst job in the world. So let's just lay this out. Megan Rapinoe is a professional athlete. Probably the coolest job in the world. You get paid to live out your passion. Literally the thing that you started doing when you were a child, the thing that you would go out to recess to do, right? You are now getting to do throughout your life and now getting paid a ton of money to do it. Okay, that doesn't sound like work to me. That sounds like you just get paid to fulfill your hobby. You get to stay in shape. You get to meet the coolest people in the world. You get to travel all around the world. You have access to the greatest resources that all of us could even dream of having access to. Yet you're calling this the worst job in the world because you have to represent the United States, which, by the way, is the most tolerant country on earth. We have the most freedoms. We have the most liberties. Any immigrant that would come over to this country would be very thankful to be in the position that they're now in versus living where they fled so vastly from. It's just, none of this adds up to me. But for Megan Rapinoe to say this does not really confuse me. All she likes to do is whine and complain. And I feel like she's teaching a horrible lesson to young girls. Not that she already hasn't been doing that by saying biological men belong in women's sports. But obviously, to be in this position of power, to have this influence and use it for really nothing, to not have the proper influence that you would want. I just can't get behind this. I hope this is the last time that I have to talk about Megan Rapinoe, and maybe maybe now that she's out of her soccer job, maybe she should try to go fulfill another job. Maybe she should go work as a janitor somewhere where she has to clean up after everybody. And that's what she spends her days doing. I mean, thank goodness for the janitors out there. We wouldn't be able to get by without them. But I'm just saying.
We are back. This is Hot Mic across the OutKick Network. I'm Chad Withrow. Having a great time. Coming to you live, downtown Nashville, 6th and Peabody Studios with Old Smoky Moonshine, Yeehaw Beer. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, doing a terrific job co-hosting with us. Once again, Jonathan Hutton once again on vacation today. He'll be back next week. Kelly will be in studio next week. Trey Wallace from OutKick.com, senior college football writer for the website, on with us right now. You never know what kind of backdrop you're going to have with Trey. Every time he comes on, he's a world traveler. He's a man of many interests, a Renaissance man, some would say. Never know where you're going to find him. And once again, we have a different backdrop today. Trey, how are things going?
You know what, man? It's my fault. You know what I mean? Like I thought this whole setup would be fine at the Rent's house, you know, getting ready for Christmas, and then it turns out that my parents wanted to go overboard and there's weird lighting in here. So whatever. It is what it is.
Well,
I should have just gone and done this hit down on the river, to be honest.
It looks like a nice spot that your parents have there. So don't need to apologize at all. It's a terrific backdrop you have.
It is what it is.
So, Trey, it's become as the Seminole turns now. Starting with the snub of the College Football Playoff Committee and now suing the ACC. We know there's been rumblings about this for a while. They were very vocal about it, wanting a bigger share of the revenue pie from the ACC before they were going to leave. Is this simply a move to sue the ACC to see if the ACC will just let them bolt without making them pay all the money they would need to pay in order to leave?
You know, I think it all, you know, maybe you could look at it as some sort of money situation, but then you look at what the ACC did yesterday, Chad, when they preemptively filed their own lawsuit against the Florida State Board of Trustees, knowing this was coming this morning. And I think that, you know, I think that surprised some folks, because you look at how this thing played out, you know, regarding social media and whatnot this morning. We had we were all watching. There were 4,000 people watching this Board of Trustees. Press conference or meeting, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it a meeting this morning. And then you look at it all of a sudden, an hour later, some reporter from North Carolina, and I hate messing her name up here, but she tweets out, well, wait a minute, look at here. Look what was filed yesterday in the state of North Carolina. You know, it was a lawsuit. It was a preemptive. I think that where we're at right now in college football in the ACC is that they are hardened in their ways, the conference is, when it comes to this grant of rights. And they feel like that they have every advantage when it comes to, okay, Florida State, you're screwed till 2036. You got to stick with us here. You can't leave us. And the biggest thing that stands out is how, to me, on the Florida State side, Chad, is how Florida State went after how the media deal was put into place, going back with ESPN and talking, you know, in their brief, their 38-page brief that I finally got done reading after like 2 hours. They finally set it up in a spot where, okay, we don't think this was done in good faith. Meaning, okay, that they thought that there was some shadiness behind the deal when it happened in 2016 that would extend it. And what I'm talking about here is Florida State, when they agreed to the new grant of rights deal, they agreed to the extension of the grant of rights. Florida State is saying that this was done without a 2/3 vote from their athletic directors at Florida State and other schools. So that, okay, this deal, it shouldn't have been in place. It should have been extended. So we're getting here right now, and you're kind of wondering, like, you know, I don't know if the money grab situation or trying to get out of the conference. Like we all saw the press conference or the same meeting 4 months ago, where you had all these trustee members, you had a former quarterback in Weatherford on there, and they're just blasting the conference, and they're talking about, okay, hey, we have to get out. We have to get out now. What a perfect opportunity, Chad, when Florida State gets left out of the college football playoff. What a great opportunity is to come out, right before the holidays. By the way, this was all like perfectly planned. Like you do this on a Friday before Christmas, and then a week before the bowl games that really matter start, the college football playoff. It was perfect timing, and I think when we break this thing down, it's going to be a long court battle. This is not something they're just going to settle in a mediation room, Chad. I think this thing has legs, and I'm actually excited because I want to see what discovery brings, because I want to see the emails, the text messages, and everything that comes with it.
Right now, I don't feel like Florida State has much of a case, just from what I'm seeing, because of the main the headliner from the Jim Phillips statement was, you signed it in 2016 just like everyone else. So you knew what you were getting into then, and you have a financial obligation to the conference. But I will say, Florida State does make some interesting points, and Drew Weatherford, I know, talked about this. Trey, it's awfully suspicious that the league treats that grant of rights agreement like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they won't let anyone go in and view them or take photos of it without an official there looking over their shoulder. That's a little bit odd when you're talking about a grant of rights media contract and the way the ACC treats it.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of National Treasure, the movie, where you cannot get to the Declaration of Independence, and there's always somebody watching.
Let's get Nick Cage on the case. Maybe he can go and decipher what's going on.
Maybe it could. And he may.
Trey, you muted yourself, I think. There you go. You're good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
sorry.
Good.
No, Weatherford knew about that. And that's the thing. Like, he knew the steps in Greensboro that it took to see this. He was asking these questions to make it public. Like, it was really smart on his behalf to be able to do that. So, and it is weird, man. This thing is locked up in Greensboro, North Carolina, in a room where literally you have to go in, you have to check in, you have to give your badge or give your ID. Then they bring out this grant of rights and they set it at this table, and your attorneys are able to look over it. There's no timetable or anything like that, but there is somebody from the conference that is standing over in the corner and they're watching you. You better not pull out your phone. You better not grab some kind of screen grab or whatnot, or shoot a picture, because you'll get in trouble. This is all part of the agreement. Like, the punishment for this stuff is wild. So, and the fact that it's not been made public, like, I think that's another thing too. Like, we know what the Big Ten is pretty much making from Fox. We know what the SEC is making from ESPN. Now, if we want to get down to every single little detail, okay, whatever. That's probably, you'd have to dig for that, but you can request it and you can find it. The ACC has done such a darn good job, in my opinion, of keeping this thing under locks, that we have not really been able to say, okay, what is in this? How hard is it to get out of this grant of rights deal? And the fact that Florida State, by way of submitting a legal claim, they were able to put out the grant of rights deals from previous years. It just goes to show you, man, a lot of this is for show. A lot of this is going to be to agitate the folks on the other side, Chad, and get back and forth with each other. But at the end of the day, Florida State's trying to get out of the conference, and right now they have nowhere to go at the moment. And I'm very interested to see who opens their arms up in a year or two, because the SEC's good right now. I talked to an SEC source an hour ago, and they're like, okay, Florida State's not coming here for the time being. We don't want them. We're good. You think ESPN's going to come back and give us more money just because we're adding Florida State? It's not going to happen. So I just feel like right now, I think it's Big Ten or bust for Florida State.
Kelly?
Yeah, Trey, I have to kind of wonder, though. So we know this is going to be a long, drawn-out process if Florida State does get a leave. And Chad kind of alluded to, hey, look, they don't want to pay their buyout. But is there a world where they can negotiate a lesser buyout, where the ACC says, all right, here you go. You want to leave so bad. This is what we need. And this is our final offer to walk. Or is that not really going to be able to be feasible for Florida State.
Here's where it gets interesting for me is if we get to a spot where we start the process of seeing emails, text messages, correspondence from either side, correspondence from other ACC schools. I mean, this is going to, because this is not just going to be Florida State at the end of the day. You're going to see other schools try to join into this situation. Do they want their laundry out there? That's my biggest thing. Does the ACC want their dirty laundry out there? That's my other thing. Is that if we get to a point now, and if we can get to, I spoke with a Florida State official, right after the meeting was over, and I asked, kind of what's the end game here? And the end game is, you're kind of on it, Kelly, is the money that is cost to get out of this deal and to get to another one. You have to remember, it's grant of rights money and it's exit fees. It's not just, one or the other. You have to, I can't blame the ACC for trying to get their money when it comes to Florida State, because they're such a big school and a moneymaker for the conference. But when it comes down to it, yeah, I think that we're going to see. I think we're going to have a conversation probably 7 or 8, 9 months from now where all sides have agreed to a resolution. I think you're going to see a financial figure. It's not we're going to be $572 million. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't see how that comes into play. I do think they probably get it around, $150 million towards the end, and everybody's going to go their separate ways, and they're going to be fine, and Florida State will add another school or two if they need to. But I think right now, that money figure just doesn't make sense. $500 million.
Trey Wallace with us, froze up there a little bit.
Months.
He's back. Go ahead, Trey. You froze up just for a sec. You're fine.
No, I'm just saying, Chad, the other schools, look at them around the country with their realignment and look at the fees that they're having to pay. Compare that to Florida State. It's wild to see where we are in college football.
Yeah, that's funny, Trey, that you said that, because I texted my Seminole alumni buddy this morning. I said, man, I hope you guys have some Saudi money, because that's what it's going to take to get out of the ACC. He said, nah, I don't think it'll even take a quarter of that. So to hear you collaborate, that's really interesting. Do you think we have maybe another Pac-12 situation on our hands where we could just see the conference collapse completely?
It depends on who wants to roll with them and leave. Does Clemson want to get out? Clemson's kind of safe right now. They're in that safe factor. They're making their money. They're paying their bills. Clemson has been the face of the ACC. Let's be honest. Before Florida State kind of made this little run again, they started playing good football. We hadn't even talked about basketball and softball and all the other sports. Miami too is in a spot where Miami doesn't know their place in college football right now because they've been absent from it for so long. If they can get back to that point where they're playing good football on a weekly basis and your program is getting better in a whole, that's what I'm trying to get at, then maybe have that conversation. But yes, there are people, like Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, those type of schools, yeah, they would want to jump. But you also have to look at it too. It's like, okay, would you rather stay in the ACC and make this amount of money if ESPN could maybe up the ante a little bit? Or you want to go join the SEC where you're going to be 6th or 7th every single year, no matter what, because of the talent that's in that conference? And the same thing goes for the Big Ten. So it's going to come down to what universities feel like that they're worth and what universities want to deal with over the next 20 to 30 years. Let's be honest. All this stuff is going to change in 10 years anyway. Somebody's going to complain. They're going to get more money from ESPN and Disney and Fox and whatnot. And we're going to be doing this little ropey-dope for the next 20 years. It's obvious.
Can't wait for the press conference announcing Greg Norman as the new AD at Florida State based on Kelly's idea. God. Here we go. We got the money now. We're gonna go wherever we want. Mack Brown is currently coaching in the ACC. So is Dave Doran. Mack Brown, who just seems like the classy old Southern gentleman senator. The way he talks to people and conducts press conferences. I love it when he gets fired up, and he's fired up about Dave Doran calling his team, quote, pieces of bleep to his team in the locker room after they beat them.
I don't know why, Matt. Well, the glasses thing is kind of the through it. I don't know why Mac Brown gets so upset over this. I mean, it was the ACC network cameras that caught Dave Duran in the locker room, and he said, it's been 1,400 and some odd days since those pieces of blank have beat us, and it's like, okay, do you know what is said in a locker room? Like, that's being mild natured. That's not even that's PG compared to getting up to TVMA when it comes to locker room talk. God, I've heard that word before in the last 3 years. I can't believe I brought that up. But getting to the point when we're looking at Mac Brown gets on his horse and like, you know what? I find that classless. He's like one of those Southern attorneys you'd find somewhere in a small town in Mississippi, where he's getting agitated over just the dumbest little bitty things. And I think it was because North Carolina, on their platform, National Signing Day, somebody tees up the question, and I'm sure that question, somebody in that room was asked, hey, can you tee this up for Mac Brown where he can knock out Dave Duran? I just think it's college football, it's recruiting. There was more to that.
It's what we love about it too, Trey. Hey, Trey, sorry, we're running out of time, but it's what we love about the sport is bad blood like that. Now we've got it with North Carolina, NC State. Trey, appreciate you, brother. Merry Christmas. With the family. Enjoy your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Happy holidays, guys. Thanks for having me, and talk to y'all soon.
NFL ratings are up. Everyone else's ratings are down. We'll discuss when we come back. This is Hot Mic across the OutKick Network.
It depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like, that should be your partner, your teammate. Like, I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom.
I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes, very much so.
What is it about like a motherly quality that you like?
It's worked for thousands of years and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional to girls.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a light. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. But if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what?
1,000.
20,000. That's a lot of money.
Big and shit.
You don't get that lady a real answer.
No, for real. Ain't it how much you make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking.
Okay.
So we did a custom order to do my ring.
I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh, yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats,
Okay.
and it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive,
What's way too expensive?
like $45,000.
You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment.
Couldn't care less.
Red flags in dating, because obviously you found each other. Did you have any icks that you overlooked, or is he perfect?
No, he's perfect. We had a nice night out at the bar. Fought over a toy shark, and that's how it all got started.
What don't you like? Red flags.
Cheating, lying, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in a woman?
Honesty, respect, in love for herself.
Some green flags are loyalty and trustworthy. Red flags are seeking attention from other women.
Jealousy, probably biggest thing, especially being around other girls all the time and having other girlfriends. That would be the number one thing, is jealousy.
Red flag is they're on their phone too much. Green flag is they're on their phone a lot with you.
Well, look for loyalty. That's it. I'm 24, so it's hard to come across that like when you're young. So that's really all I look for, really, honestly.
What were deal breakers?
If she was broke, I know that sounds crazy, but for real, if she was broke, cause like it's like, yeah, like I don't want to take care of a motherfucker. Like I want to equal.
Welcome back. We are back on Hot Mic across the OutKick Network. I'm Chad Withrow in our downtown Nashville 6th and Peabody studio with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. Kelly Stewart, guest co-hosting today. Check out her show also, The Fade, with Kelly and Clay Travis, weekly as part of the OutKick Network. That'll get you ready for the week, the weekend, and probably make you a little bit of money also, but only if you listen to Kelly and not Clay. Although Clay's blood bank guarantees have been quite profitable so far this year. Am I right in saying that, Kelly?
No, Clay's had a very good year. We didn't start the show until week 5 of the NFL. We're a little behind on some things, but Clay was rocking and rolling there early. His blood bank guarantees have been very good. And now I'm going to say the little asterisk part, and that's because the NFL has been so square this year. Yesterday I had Todd Furman on in place of the Australian Clay Travis. Yes, he is on vacation in Australia. So we talked a little bit longer, really broke down some of the games. You guys want to go check that out on the OutKick YouTube channel.
Todd's one of the best. I watched it, and you guys crushed it. And a longer show also with Todd and not Clay. I know that's no surprise for those that know you guys. So you talked about the NFL there, Kelly, and while it's been a bad year for offense, and I think overall the product has been worse this year to watch in the NFL, people are still watching. The ratings are having no problem. This from an article by Richard Deitch at The Athletic. NFL games are averaging 17.48 million viewers this season. That's across TV and digital platforms. That's excluding international games. That's an 8% year-over-year increase from this time last year, which is huge in the TV ratings game. 8% increase from last year. Monday Night Football is up 24% over last year. That is a direct result of more games on ABC and not just ESPN. Amazon is up 23%, which is a staggering increase. NBC is averaging 21.8 million viewers on Sunday Night Football. Everything is up, up, up. I think Fox has 4 of the 5 most watched shows, most watched games of the season also. And Kelly, I'm trying to figure out why the NFL seems to be impenetrable from an outsider's perspective of viewership and how it really is America's obsession, seemingly. And the reasons that they point to in this article, and there's a couple of ratings experts on, bigger market, bigger brand teams being the best teams in the league, namely Philly, Dallas, San Francisco, Buffalo always being a good TV draw. But the one I know that got our attention when I saw it was the Taylor Swift factor. That Kansas City Chiefs games that she attends, ratings are sky high for those games. Are you buying the Swiftie factor for NFL viewership this year?
I think there's a magnitude of factors. Let's talk about the writers' strike, right? That's year,
a good one.
As a gambler, halftime, game's not going so well. Let's put on House of Dragons. Let's put on Yellowstone. Let's put on reruns of The Office, because anything was better than what I was watching on my television go haywire towards my gambling account. I actually think gambling, being involved in more states. Remember, Florida came on board. That's another 37 potential million customers. Yes, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs games are going to draw more eyeballs, just in case your 13-year-old daughter gets a second to see Taylor Swift. But I think that is really just an isolated thing for those Kansas City Chiefs games, right? Depending on who they're playing, and especially in prime time when there's nothing else on to watch.
It's amazing to me that football fans are going to watch the football game no matter what, right? The NFL. People like us, we're going to tune in. But the idea that someone would tune into a football game to see a pop megastar, albeit a billionaire pop performer, international superstar, maybe the biggest celebrity in the world, probably the biggest celebrity in the world, but to get a glimpse of that person in a suite, in a luxury suite during the game,
Mouthing
celebrating
F-bombs.
Well, you can go and watch the Eras concert tour movie right now if you want. You can go on YouTube and watch any music video of Taylor Swift. It's just fascinating to me that you want to see Taylor Swift, as you said, dropping an F-bomb at a game. That's weird to me that people are drawn to it. And the fact that I'm actually reading stories about younger people becoming Chiefs fans and football fans because of the Taylor Swift connection is wild to me.
I can see that. Young girls needing a connection with their dads on Saturday evening. They're so used to them sitting on the couch, and now all of a sudden they have a reason to want to sit there. And then maybe they get a little more intrigued about the game. Maybe they ask some questions. I could see it translating to Kansas City Chief fandom, albeit this is probably the wrong time to jump on the bandwagon. But we'll see how it kind of goes for them over the next few years with Patrick Mahomes at least locked up in a long-term contract.
Well, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, he went on CBS this morning, interviewed by Nate Burleson on that show, of course, former NFL wide receiver. And he says essentially that Taylor Swift has been adopted by Chiefs Kingdom, and she's a part of the team now. And that at first it was a little bit odd that no one knew how to talk about it, but then Travis Kelce started bringing her around the team more. They started talking about it more. Now Brittany Mahomes is besties with Taylor Swift, and suddenly Patrick Mahomes is all for it and said, she's basically a part of the team right now. Kelly, are you buying?
To keep his wife in line.
Yeah.
I'm happy. She has just been on her best behavior since now she's in the limelight with Taylor. You love to see it.
Yeah, she's wanting to be friends with Taylor Swift. No doubt about that. Are you buying the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce long-term future? If it's a gambling market, we're in a betting market right now, Kelly. Are you buying these two crazy kids making it for the long haul?
For a publicity stunt? Sure, why not? I'm sure now they have to kind of ride this one out. I'm sure that, look, there's no coincidence that Travis fired his PR team and then started doing Bud Light commercials and Pfizer commercials and then starts dating Taylor Swift. I mean, those are not coincidences, Chad. Do I think it's going to be for the long haul? Like, are they going to get married? If I had to be put a line on that, I'd say no, minus 5,000. Are they going to get through the 2024 election? Yeah, I bet they do.
Well, what's hilarious is, so Taylor Swift, this is what I find fascinating, because talking to you about this, you're going back and saying, well, Travis Kelce with who he's been with before doesn't make a lot of sense with Taylor Swift. And I would agree with that. Clay Travis, who we have on, says the opposite. He has no idea why Taylor Swift would ever be with Travis Kelce, who Clay says at best is a pro wrestler when he's done. And she is a billionaire global icon. So why would she want to be with Travis Kelce? I'll push back on this idea of publicity, because if Taylor Swift wanted publicity, she could be with a lot of other people that would generate that publicity. And why I actually think there's a God's honest attraction here, right? I think oftentimes, people maybe, everybody has their type, but they want to break away from that at some point. Taylor Swift has been dating nothing but 135-pound British actors for the longest time now. So the idea of being with a 6'4", 250-pound NFL tight end is probably appealing. I think Travis Kelce has a pretty funny personality. We saw it when he hosted SNL. We've seen it different times in commercials. So I think the personality is there for Travis Kelce. So I think that's why Taylor Swift is drawn to him. Now, to your point, on the flip side, I think it's the biggest star on the planet. So there's going to be some appeal there for Travis Kelce. I think it's legit. I don't know if they're going to make it long term, but I think they're legitimately together.
Oh, I think they're legitimately together for now. But again, yes, it's very easy for him to to go out there and do this for publicity. Her, of course not. Did you see the viral clip yesterday or the day before? The woman from East LA that claims to be a feminist, dated men and women, went out with like a guy's guy, right? Like manly guy, goes to the gym, lifts weights, wouldn't let her pay for anything. And she's like losing her mind on TikTok.
She
and
hated it, I'm sure.
No, she
Loved
is
it.
obsessed with the guy. And it has just completely flipped her. She told her friend she was feral over him. And I find it very interesting because I think that's exactly what you said about Taylor Swift. She's used to dating the John Mayers of the world that are so artistic and so this, but they don't have that toxic masculinity that women actually crave. We know Charlie talks about it on her show all the time. Back in one of my former other careers, if you will, I did an interview with the CEO and she said, what do you love most? And I said, I love toxic masculinity. Women by nature are drawn to that. And we've been lied to, if you will, to think that it's something that's bad. That's exactly. Travis is not a good guy. Travis has the rumors I have heard about Mr. Kelsey out of Kansas City. Good for him, because I would do the same thing in his position. That being said, he's a guy's guy. He's going to smash beers when they win the Super Bowl. He's going to yell things in the mic. He is going to pick her up and spin her around and make her feel like she is truly like mush in his arms, right? And no, the other guys she's ever dated, they can't do that for her.
No, we're talking about like British theater veterans that she's been with, that she's taller than most of them. So again, I can see the appeal from that standpoint. I think everything you're saying is spot on. Man, I feel like a woman, I guess, is what Taylor Swift is saying, to quote the great Shania Twain. The Chargers job is going to be one that everyone thinks is great simply because of the quarterback, right, Kelly? And the Vegas favorite right now to land the Chargers job, none other, and I'm raising my hand saying, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm sprinting from Michigan with this level 1 violation, with everything going on with Connor Stallions. I am sprinting to the NFL. If I'm him, well, Vegas thinks that he may be sprinting to LA to be the Chargers' next coach, plus 200 as the favorite right now.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you. Vegas is not allowed to place those odds.
Oh, okay.
So
this is offshore.
Something that, yes, a lot of people don't realize things that can have inside information, right? So they actually did hang where will Tom Brady go? Remember a few years ago before he went to the Buccaneers, and all of a sudden the line just plummeted and went off the board. And Vegas said, all right, we're not doing these things anymore where you can get intel and people can come here and take advantage of. So I'm going to go ahead and guess this is an offshore. At least I haven't seen a Vegas casino hang it. But yeah, absolutely. I did a social post back in October when I first started with OutKick. And they said, what are you going to do if you're Harbaugh? How are you going to beat these allegations? I said, he's not. He's just going to pull a Pete Carroll and go be the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Last week, you and I, dabbled with, will it be Bill Belichick? Bill Belichick, second on the list here, just a slight underdog to Jim Harbaugh. I could see both of these guys being front runners or having it be a 2-horse race, rather, to be the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers.
And reports are that he's been offered the extension from Michigan, a raise. They will protect him to the death from the NCAA, basically a lifetime contract. But the one exception is that he can't go interview for NFL jobs. And I'm thinking there's a reason he hasn't signed that extension right now, because he knows he's going to want to entertain NFL jobs this offseason. I am in 1,000% agreement with you on this one, Kelly. I think he's gone. I think it's in his best interest to be gone. I think it's great that Michigan's willing to stand by their man to this point. But you also have to eventually ask the question, is the drama worth it? Now, if they win a national title this year, yeah, it's worth it. He won you a national title. I think every Michigan fan would sign up for that. But if making the playoff and not winning the national title, but constantly being embroiled in controversy, is that ultimately going to wear thin with Michigan supporters? I think so. I think There is a law of diminishing return. By the way, Belichick, you mentioned, plus 300. Ben Johnson, who's a very popular name with NFL jobs, Lions offensive coordinator, plus 400. Kellen Moore, plus 500 for the Chargers job. I want to talk about this with you another time, Kelly, but we always rate jobs in college sports, and we love to put rankings out if this job's better than that one or this job's better than this one. So much in the NFL is just aligned around the quarterback that people only want to look at that for job purposes. Do people care about being like fourth fiddle in LA and having nothing but opposing fans at your games if you're the Chargers? Do you care about bad ownership? Because Dean Spanos, the Spanos family, have not been the best owners of that team also. I think there are other factors we can put in there for other jobs that may be appealing to some, not all, and the Chargers probably will be the best available job because of Justin Herbert, but we'll definitely get into that another time. We're also going to get into a little bit later, Ryan Clark, former Pittsburgh Steelers player for Mike Tomlin, is saying on ESPN that it's time for Tomlin to bolt, time for Tomlin to leave that job. We'll talk about that and more. We may even talk to Lorenzo Alexander about that. 15-year NFL veteran, former Buffalo Bill, among others. Lorenzo Alexander hopping on the show next. This is Hot Mike across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement, and today I'm going to continue making that case.
And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. The bold taste of a Southern legend.
We are back. Hot mic across the OutKick network. I'm Chad Withrow, downtown Nashville studios, 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky Moonshine, Yeehaw Beer. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Our final show before a Christmas break that will consist of not being on for Christmas Day. And then we'll be right back here in studio. It will be Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas with Jonathan Hutton, Tuesday through Friday of next week. Kelly Stewart on with us right now. Hope to be joined by Lorenzo Alexander, 15-year NFL vet, former NFL player, to talk about all things NFL coming up here shortly. But, Kelly, right now I do want to get into this comment by Ryan Clark. And not just the comment by Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark goes on ESPN and says, and I've seen the clip, essentially his argument is Mike Tomlin is not appreciated anymore in Pittsburgh. His message is stale and not getting through to the players. And his evidence is the George Pickens just absolutely dogging it. And then afterwards saying basically he saw Tank Dell get injured blocking, so he's not going to block. And then Mike Tomlin came back and said he needs to keep his damn mouth shut. Needs to know when to shut the hell up is basically what he said about George Pickens when things are tough. I buy that maybe with this group, some messages aren't being received. I think it's crazy that a guy who's won 63% of his games and never had a losing season in 17 years is on the hot seat all of a sudden. But it's not just Ryan Clark talking about he should leave. Peter King in his Monday morning quarterback column, his weekly column, saying his seat's getting toastier by the week in Pittsburgh. Do you think Mike Tomlin should be on the hot seat?
Absolutely not. The grass is not going to be greener on the other side, Steelers fans. Big Ben started this whole discussion. I have not heard a single Steelers fan that I'm friends with is calling for him. Look, the bottom line, they've got to get a quarterback. You cannot keep doing this quarterback carousel. I don't know if it's Pickett. It's not going to be Mason Rudolph this week. And we know after last couple weeks, Mitch Trubisky's not it either. Mike Tomlin is an excellent head coach. Now, Matt Canada, offensive coordinator, is gone. Now, maybe they can start to turn some things around, but he's 7-7 on the season. Do you know how many teams would be very happy to be 7-7, especially in the AFC North? Those teams are a rock fight every single weekend. And I know we're going to get into some of my picks later on, but the Steelers catching points at home, you wait and see if Mike Tomlin doesn't have something up his sleeve for good old Jake Browning this weekend. I just think this is crazy. This is just absolute utter crazy talk. But one of the things that you said that kind of resonated with me, do you remember when Matthew Stafford said at the beginning of the year that he could not relate to some of the young wide receivers in his locker room?
Yeah.
Is that what's starting to happen here? Is that there is an age gap that's just enough that these young kids that are coming from college, maybe they had younger coordinators, maybe they had younger grad assistants that they could relate to. I mean, we started to see this in a couple of other college football programs where they moved on, like you said, from the Mac Browns of the world because they could not get another national championship or they could not get a Big 12 championship or whatever that was. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here with the Steelers fans. Like, okay, you're going to push out a really good guy. I mean, would you say that he's a top 15? Okay, so we have 32 teams. Would you say he's a top 16 coach? Absolutely. So go ahead and you push this guy out. And then what are you going to do? I think this is a terrible idea. But was Ryan more or less saying that Mike Tomlin should go elsewhere for more money because he's not appreciated?
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw the headline because I know Ryan Clark and Tomlin are close and he played for him. And he was arguing that he should leave because Pittsburgh, if they're actually going to doubt him, they should work something out and part ways, and he can go anywhere else and coach. I think any open job is going to want to talk to Mike Tomlin, right? And probably hire him. Most would probably want to hire him. Here's what's crazy about the Steelers organization. Chuck Noll was hired in 1969. So for the past 54 years, they've had 3 coaches. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin. And here's what's even crazier. Mike Tomlin is young, 51 years old right now, 51. Now, we're talking about Bill Belichick in his 70s, possibly going one other place and finishing out his career. Mike Tomlin is still a young man in coaching and could go anywhere else for another 10 or 15 years. I'm with you, Kelly. I think it's crazy to speculate. I understand wanting Matt Canada gone and they got their way with that, the offensive coordinator gone. I'll also say that, and I'm surprised to see this, every time the Steelers draft someone or bring in a free agent or trade for someone, we usually say that makes sense because that's a Steelers guy. They have an identity, similar to a lot of college programs. You get a guy, and that is a Steelers guy. We know the Iowa guys when they get them, right? Or whatever the team may be. That seems like a good Steelers guy. George Pickens is not that guy. And I understand the talent and thinking you can fix him and you can be the one to get through to him. But with that effort and then him defending that effort and talking about not wanting to give it his all for a teammate because he saw someone else injured, that's grounds to get cut, in my opinion. See you later. And if Mike Tomlin's going to continue to put him out there, and if that happens again and he does nothing, then those things do become a Mike Tomlin problem.
Yeah, see you later. Goodbye. We're paying you millions of dollars, essentially. And yes, that involves putting your body on the line to win football games. That is an issue. And I actually missed that. I obviously saw it happen to Tank Dell. And anytime those injuries happen, it is unfortunate. But that is part of the game. And if you're not willing to do that for your team, maybe you just don't care enough. Maybe you'll go care if you're riding the bench, or maybe you care if you get cut or get traded to another team where you're not in that culture that you fit in, or maybe you have a culture that you're going to fit better in. You're absolutely right. I'm over here looking at the list of teams. The Atlanta Falcons would love to have Mike Tomlin. The Carolina Panthers would love to have Mike Tomlin. The Arizona Cardinals, even though they're not on the coaching block just yet, I have a feeling they might be here in the next year or two.
The Washington Commanders, is another one that should come open.
The Los Angeles Chargers, I know we just spoke about Harbaugh and Belichick, would love to have them. You mentioned age. Guys like Pete Carroll are getting a little bit older. They're going to be retiring soon. I highly doubt Belichick retires, but I don't think he stays in New England. So is the New England job going to be coming open here really soon? Most likely.
So Colorado has the #1 transfer class in all of college football. They've worked the portal well. They've added with 6 more 4-star guys. They've got 18 players coming in the transfer portal. None of that surprises me because you knew this season that was going to have to be the strategy for Deion Sanders because they were so bad across the offensive and defensive lines. I don't know that they've revamped their offensive line enough to be considered someone who's going to be good now moving into the Big 12. I think what does surprise me, though, Kelly, is when you look at the ratio and percentage of what programs are going to do with high school recruits and portal. Deion has gone all in on the portal, and I mean all in to the point that he's got 8 guys coming in from high school in this class. And his biggest recruit, by the way, is Jordan Seaton, the 5-star offensive tackle who's not signed. He committed to Colorado, but now there's some mystery about where he may end up. I'm curious to see if this is going to work for Deion Sanders. It is a wild strategy, and while it is paying off in the transfer portal, is it going to work to the level it needs to for them to be actual factors in college football?
He doesn't want to develop players, Chad. I don't know why. Here's this guy who claims all this culture, come play for me, have a winning mentality, right? They still only won 4 games last year. Here's the problem I have with the transfer portal. You can get some kids that are going to be plug and play, right? If you run a same style offense, let's use K-State, for example. They had a strong safety that transferred because his position basically, they said, we don't need you anymore because we're going to run a different type of defense going forward. So he transferred to a school where he's going to be used. Kansas State got a quarterback from Minnesota who wanted to play in Kansas State style offense because PJ Fleck does not run that. You have to have players that plug and play. And if they don't, you can't just plug any old athlete in there. And I think that's what Deion tried to do. And it worked when nobody had any tape on them against an abysmal TCU team.
You know, I think. Go ahead. Yeah, no, I think that there's system and there's dudes, right? So the approach for Deion Sanders is I want dudes.
Sure.
I don't care about system. System will take care of itself. I'll hire good play callers. You know, Sean Lewis a year ago, who now left to be the head coach at San Diego State, but he was a head coach at Kent State where they scored a ton of points. That was a good move. Bring in guys that can lead those sides of the ball, and Deion will be the figurehead CEO and do so in a big-time way, and then you go and get dudes. But you got to get dudes out of high school too and develop them and get them better. And there does need to be some sort of culture. It can't just be, I'm going to bring in nothing but alphas and then hope that they follow my lead and everything's going to work out, especially when you're competing for those alphas with Ohio State and with Georgia and Texas and Alabama. It's just not that easy.
Yeah, it's not that easy. And also, I'm concerned when Shedeur leaves, which might not be for a couple of years, right? He's getting paid handsomely at Colorado. We spoke about how kids are staying longer in college because those rookie contracts are essentially the same as what they're making in college, unless you're Arch Manning and then you're making, 10-year offensive lineman money. But all jokes aside, I have to say, I'm not sure what the heck Deion is doing in the long term. We know what he's doing in the short term, and you nailed it. He's going out there and he's getting to some of the best athletes he can get. I just don't see how that translates to winning on the field. And I think the culture is we've got cars. Nobody has to adhere to the rules. We've got nice jewelry. We're getting paid. I kind of have to wonder when the bottom might fall out. You got to have leaders. And you know how you have leaders? You develop them. You don't come in as a transfer from UCLA and just walk in and everybody commands your respect day one. That's not how this works.
Yeah, and I think the right coaches and the right culture and programs, that they're immune to a lot of that, so they can pay their guys top dollar and it not become an issue because the culture is so strong. I think about Alabama.
They're going to win a national championship.
And who's paying top dollar, right?
Yep.
But we don't hear about issues in the locker room with guys making more than someone else or problems, right? Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, their top 4-star receiver commit out of junior college rides up to the facility on National Signing Day in a brand new Lamborghini. Those guys are getting paid. Great. The Grove Collective is one of the best, one of the strongest, maybe the strongest in college football. They're doing their job, and they're getting great recruits in the transfer portal, and they just had a really good year in high school recruiting too. But call me skeptical that the Lane Kiffin program is going to lead to national championship culture the way a Nick Saban run Alabama program or even Kirby Smart at Georgia will. Maybe it will. They're going all in on making the playoff this next year with the guys they're bringing in and who they have coming back. And I think that's a smart move for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, and we'll probably see others do the same.
Yeah, let's go back, though, to what we spoke about, how Deion didn't really seem to care about getting kids out of high school.
Yeah.
Well, look who Nick got out of high school in 2021 and 2022. His entire receiving core, every single one of them, gone. And that's because when you first get told by a head coach that you're going to get a play, no problem. And you get a little bit of money in your pocket, no problem. But when you're getting less than the kids that they're bringing in from the transfer portal, and when you're seeing the field less often, or you're not seeing the field at all, and you get a call from a smaller school that says you're going to start game one, and here's a couple $100,000 and we'll buy your mom a house. She can move here now. That becomes a little bit more intriguing, right? That becomes more eyeballs, right? And I think we're going to see that from some of the middle tier schools, such as my own, right? K-State had a kid that they said was bought and paid for off their roster, quote unquote. He had full-on plans and playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Now he's gone. See you later. I have no problem with kids getting paid, zero. But that's going to happen. But let's see who they can get now without having to pay that NIL money. Maybe they can get a younger wide receiver from Alabama that they would have never had an opportunity to do so in the past.
Yeah, and I hate to think of the kids who are leaving solely for money. Now, if the money is insanely different, I can understand that. But if it's close, if you just leave for a little bit more money, I would tell anyone that's on a college roster that's a mistake. You need to factor everything in. I think K-State's a good example of that. Good culture, good coaching staff. They will develop guys. If you like it there, if you like your teammates, you can pass up on a little bit more money and stay. And Kelly, I think one positive of the transfer portal, or not transfer portal per se, but NIL and how it's helped programs, it's helped some programs that can pay a little bit of money stay older and more veteran with their guys. Now, the COVID year is not going to last forever. It's just for the this next 2 or 3 years you'll have that. But the amount of programs, my alma mater, Tennessee being one, that have been able to give offensive linemen a little bit of money to pass on being a 5th or 6th round draft pick to come back for one more year, or defensive linemen in the interior. You got 24-year-old grown men now coming back for decent money to play one last year that have been there their entire careers. I think that's going to be helpful to a lot of programs.
It's crazy. I was on, I think it was Instagram, and I saw that one of K-State's basketball players got a brand new Mach 3 Mustang yesterday. And I turned to my boyfriend. I said, God, I remember when half of my friends on the basketball team didn't even have cars.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's great to see these guys getting taken care of, being able to take care of their moms, being able to buy nice things for themselves. Or, maybe that's part of their deal. They get a car or they get, some sort of trust after they graduate. It's awesome to see these guys getting money. But I have to agree with you. There becomes a point in time where your happiness should be more important than money. The eyeballs that are going to be seen on you, depending on what school you're at. If you leave in Alabama for, let's just say something crazy. You leave Alabama for an Eastern Michigan. They pay you some money and they tell you you're going to get a start next year. Well, you're going to be on games on Tuesday night instead of Saturday night. But I do have a feeling that we are going to see that from some of these smaller schools where maybe they would have just been the second guy on the depth chart or even the third. And now they're getting a little bit of money playing at a San Diego State. And, you see those late night games and maybe an NFL talent scout sees you and you go a little higher in the draft.
Yeah. And, we measure it all by who did people bring in from the transfer portal. I think you got to look at also who were you able to retain. That's the crazy thing about college football. It's year to
Absolutely.
year. And whoever's coming back on your roster that you want there, that's a win for that program, whether it be K-State, Bama, anyone else, that's a win for someone. We're going to win when we come back because we got our betting segment with Kelly in Vegas. That's next. This is Hot Mic across the OutKick Network.
Gives a rat's ass whether Stephen A. Smith is happy or not. Stephen A. Smith is not happy about the leadership of Steph Curry. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Stephen A. Smith, until ESPN got all woke and decided we need an African-American face, had been fired from every job. I remember driving into my show, and when he replaced, my man, I forget his name, out of D.C. I love the guy. I'm like, this is awful. And then eventually Stephen A. Smith got fired from that job. And I'm like, thank God we can get somebody in here. Well, Stephen A. Smith, because ESPN decided, oh my God, diversity hire. They hire Stephen A. Smith. And to Stephen A. Smith's credit, he has taken off and ran with it. Good for him. He's done a great job. He's easy to work with by all accounts. His producer ran a porn store. That's true. Had a porn company, but I digress. I don't know if she still is the producer, but one night when everybody got snowed in, I was just having a drink with a couple of guys and she was sitting there and they started talking about her porn company and I was intrigued. Anyway, true story. Next thing you know, Stephen A. Smith played at Winston-Salem. He averaged no points. Smokey Gaines, legendary head coach, had to kick him off because he was such a pain in the ass, but yet somehow, some way, Stephen A. Smith can attack. That's right. He can attack Steph Curry. Now, look, I'm not mad at the premise. I'm not mad at the premise of, look, Golden State Warriors, why don't you do something with Draymond Green? But I am not happy with Stephen A. Smith being the guy. Here's what Smith said. Where's the leadership? Where's he at? What kind of impact is having? That is Stephen. Is he having? That's Stephen A. Smith on Steph Curry. Well, see, this is what you don't do. You don't respond back if you're Steve Kerr, because that is what Stephen A. Smith is dying to have. I told you the story, Eastern Conference Finals, Pacers and the Heat. I think it was. He's walking around trying to look important, and guys are laughing at him because they know he doesn't know jack shit about basketball. So Steve Kerr jumps back. For anyone to question Steph Curry's leadership is actually kind of sickening. Saw some of that yesterday. Disgusting. We're talking about one of the finest human beings that I've ever been around, but that's the climate we live in. We're going to question Steve Curry's leadership. Really? You're going to do that? Think about that. And Kerr's not wrong. Look, Stephen A. Smith is a gutless wonder. Stephen A. Smith doesn't have nothing. I mean, he don't have nothing. He's got no basketball chops. You hear him talking basketball on TV. He doesn't know nothing. I mean, he may know something compared to Chimmy O, whatever the hell her name is, or whatever the hell Doris Burke. They may know something compared to those two. But he don't know nothing when it comes to real basketball. He's a fraud. He's a talker. He doesn't know a damn thing. But anyway, Steve Kerr jumped right into it, and that ain't good. We're asking, Steve Kerr said, or excuse me, according to Stephen A. Smith, Steve Kerr didn't mention me by name. I'll mention Steve Kerr by name. Disgusted with him. Oh, good. Be disgusted. No one is questioning Steph Curry as a leader. What we said was, if that was LeBron James, we would have said, where are you? Stephen A. Smith's response, no, he wouldn't have.
We are back, and we are rolling right along on this Friday on Hot Mic as part of the OutKick Network. I'm Chad Withrow. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, guest co-hosting with us today. I'm in Nashville, our 6th and Peabody downtown Nashville studios. Old Smoky Moonshine, Yeehaw Beer. Kelly is down in Florida. Lorenzo Alexander, not sure where he is right now, but I know where he was. He was a 15-year NFL veteran, kind enough to hop on with us, talk a little NFL on this Friday as we head into Christmas weekend. Lorenzo, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm out here in Phoenix, was ripping and running, doing some errands, and got caught up in this Christmas traffic. So I'm in the car doing this interview instead of my office.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I know it's a hectic time of year regardless, so thanks for taking the time to join us. I want to ask you about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh and everything going on with George Pickens, the video of him not blocking on the play and then his excuse for it. And the idea that Mike Tomlin is actually on a hot seat right now, which is crazy to me when you look at his overall record and the fact he's never had a losing season in 16 years. Do you think that him being on the hot seat is valid?
I don't think it's valid, but I'm an old school guy, and I know what Mike T is and who he is and what he's all about and how he coaches. And so there is, from my perspective, it always needs to fall back on the accountability of the player. Now, they are a young locker room when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, if you listen to Ryan Clark, right, there is not a guy or a group of guys when we think about who the Steelers have been historically that can kind of round those guys up and kind of rein those guys back in, or be great advocates of Mike T to be able to translate what he's saying in the locker room. And so I don't think he should be on the hot seat. But, I think at the same time, there is a thing called relatability. And just like Bill Belichick is kind of going through the same thing, it's not like he doesn't know how to do football, doesn't know like he doesn't know how to coach the game or help young men grow up. But sometimes if you are no longer being heard by a group of men, sometimes that will impact the outcome, especially if you don't have, a significant talent at QB or talent all over the place. And so they have to figure out what that looks like moving forward. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a lot easier to move on from their head coach. I'm not promoting that at all, but we look at Andy Reid, right? He had to move on from Philly and found success elsewhere. So sometimes that occurs where there's just no longer a fit as far as your messaging in the locker room. But at the end of the day, if you're going to ever ask me who I'm always going to rep Mike T. And the guys in the locker room need to grow up, learn what it's about to play football, and be selfless, right, regardless of what's going around you.
Yeah, and look, if Mike Tomlin is suddenly without a job, I think you'll have one in a heartbeat if he wants it. He's 51 years old. Bill Belichick, a guy you just brought up, though, Lorenzo, I want to ask you about him. It looks like, if you believe reports out of New England, a lot of people who've been around that organization for a while, it'll be kind of a mutual parting of ways at the end of the year, and that the Patriots are probably going to work something out where they're not even going to demand a trade for Bill Belichick. Just let him walk, and then they don't owe him the money, and also they don't have to hold him up with a trade. If that's the case, do you think Bill Belichick coaches somewhere else to finish out his career at this stage?
For sure, if he wants to. I mean, he's in that same ilk, right? He's not a guy that doesn't know how to coach. And there's a plenty of bad teams out there that have poor coaching where he can step in and put his footprint on that team. And really help change the culture and the trajectory. Now, is he going to have the same success that he had in New England? Probably not, but he can set a team up to start developing that and becoming and cultivating that culture that allowed him to create that success in New England. And I would say he's had some success, before they kind of got too far away and things got weird. But right after Tom left, they still were a team that was formidable, right? They still were competing. Now they've kind of gotten to a weird place where they're kind of almost rebooting and have to restart. And at the end of the day, you got to have talented guys. And in those teams that he had when he was rolling, that roster doesn't look the same right now. And so, he's going to have to figure out where he can go to, imprint that, and then also maybe he brings in someone else that they can work together as far as building a roster that is going to be able to execute what he's going to ask. He demands a lot, he expects a lot, and that's not for everybody.
Lorenzo, I know you finished your career with the Buffalo Bills. They got a nice, looks like an easy one against the Chargers tomorrow. We'll see if they can get past them. Then they have a revenge against the Patriots, and then they finish off the season with the front runner of the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins don't have quite easy of a road. Do you think the Bills have a really good shot here to be able to, what we'll call it, spring the upset and win the AFC East?
Yeah, I think they can do it. I mean, I think they put the ball back in their court by winning these last couple of games. They've been one of those teams that have, I don't want to say underachieved. They haven't executed at a high enough level consistently, right, to be in a position that I think we all thought they would be at the beginning of the season. But, that's most teams, right? You have some adversity in there. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily equate to losses like it has with the Bills. But every team, I don't care if you're 12-4, 5-5, you're going to face some adversity. And they've been able to find a way to fight their way out of that, right? Josh is playing really good football. James Cook is coming on. The defense has been playing well. And now things seems like they're bouncing in their favors, especially when we think about, Tony being offsides in that Chiefs game. So I think they're in a really good space. Obviously, I'm very familiar with their culture and their coaching, and I think they're going to be primed to really make a run at this thing. But I want to say, kind of preface, there is no easy football game in the NFL, right? I know on paper it may look like it based on what's going on, but we've seen some crazy stuff happen. Anytime as a football player you walk into a game thinking it's going to be an easy one, that's when you typically lose. So I know those guys will be focused. Take the Chargers out as quick as possible, right? You really want to put your thumb on them as early as possible, and then obviously move on to the Patriots. And anytime you play in a division game, those are never easy. I don't care what your records are. I'll actually be in the house for that one. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think they're in a really good space. They have great leadership. And I know one thing, nobody wants to play those guys right now, whether they, win the East some way or get a wild card spot.
I love it. As the resident gambler, I love to hear that you guys are not looking ahead and looking past the Chargers team that just got boat raced in Las Vegas.
Ugly.
Last question for you. Who's your Super Bowl champion this year?
Ooh, man, that's a hard one. If I had to rock right now, I grew up in the Bay Area, and I grew up a Niners fan. So I think that's the best football team consistently throughout this entire season. Especially when you think about coaching, players, their scheme and how they execute and how physical they play as well, even at like the receiver spots, right? And so I'm going to go with them. They have great defense, Fred Warner. I'm going to go with the 49ers winning this thing this year if I had to pick today.
Awesome. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Yeah, is Kyle Shanahan the most valuable coach in the NFL right now? I'm not going to say the best because he hasn't won a Super Bowl and we got guys with multiple Super Bowls. But in terms of value to the team and what he does with that group, is he the most valuable guy right now?
I don't know if he's the most valuable guy. Because they all come from that. When you think about Sean McVay, right? When you think about McDaniels, when you think about some of these coaches and their scheme and what allows their players to do and execute, right? There's multiple guys like that throughout the league that if you take them off their team, Andy Reid being another one, right? Their teams aren't going to be as explosive because of the fingerprint they put on these offenses. So he's up there, but he has a lot of great talent around him as well. So I don't think he's the most valuable, but he is a very important piece as far as the schematics they have from an offensive standpoint. And it doesn't matter who the coordinator on defense has been. They've always been at the top. So I'm going to say he's close, but maybe not the best.
No Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. The AFC feels wide open right now with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense struggling. I'm glad we're talking about the Bills because this feels like and I know Bills fans are tired of hearing about this, but maybe the year for the Bills, if they can just get in and they're playing the way they are and they get hot at the right time, where they could make a push for the Super Bowl. But the biggest thing out there, and we're going to see that's 49ers team we talked about, play the Ravens coming up. It's the Ravens and whether or not we fully trust the Ravens. Do you fully trust the Ravens come playoff time if they are the number 1 seed in the AFC to be that team to beat to get to a Super Bowl?
I mean, I think historically I would. I'm always going to rock with the Ravens because they play great defense. They're a physical team. They can run the football, right? And that typically is what travels well. It looks like they're going to have the number 1 seed, so they don't have to travel at all. So it's going to be really hard to go up into Baltimore and beat a team that has Lamar Jackson at the helm, especially how he's evolved as these offenses evolve, being more of a pocket passer and be able to dish the ball around is too. So they are definitely a hard win. And nobody really wants to play them either. And so I trust them. It's going to take somebody that can play their style of game, right? Maybe be a little bit more explosive and make them try to play from behind, which is something that they necessarily don't want to do in order to beat them. And a team like the Bills, an explosive team like Miami can do it, as long as it's not too cold up there for Miami. But those type of teams have a shot at beating them if they can make it like a 34-32 barn burner like the Chiefs Bills, a couple of years ago was.
Well, let's talk about the Dolphins because everybody in the media, me included, we love Mike McDaniel. I love watching him on Hard Knocks in-season edition. I love how refreshing he is. I love that he's a little bit nerdy, but in a funny type way. We all love that demeanor with him. As a player, when you watch Mike McDaniel, do you love it also? And do you see where that can connect with his roster? Because he is very different in his approach than most NFL head coaches.
And you have to be that. I was with Mike in Washington way back in the day before who he was or who he is today. And so he's always been that guy. And you have to be authentic and true to yourself if you want anybody to take you seriously. And so there's no way that Mike could walk in there and act like he was Mike Shanahan, right? Totally different personalities and how they go about their business. Because if he was to do that, guys would see right through it, call it phony, and I don't care what comes out of his mouth after that, I'm turning you off. But because he's true to who he is, no matter how quirky or weird it may be perceived, guys can buy into it. And then there's some substance behind whatever he's saying in those rooms that is gravitating and really connecting with the guys. And once you get the guys bought in and they trust who you are, right, and you got some wins to kind of go with that, I think that's where you start finding that success that you want to see as a head coach. And so it's been good, and it's refreshing, right? When you get away from some of the the stereotypical head coaches that you would think about, 80s, 90s, old school mindset, when you have some of these new younger guys, thinkers, and just a little bit differently work or operate a little bit differently can be refreshing, especially be able to connect with this new generation that I think a lot of the old school guys are having some issues connecting with and not getting the most out of.
How quickly can NFL players see through phony when it comes to an assistant coach, a staffer, a head coach, anyone? And is that something that you gain that ability over time? And by the time you're a professional, can you do it? Or do you see situations where college kids within a program can sniff out phony quickly also?
I coach youth sports and high school sports, and kids can figure out right away whether or not you're phony. If you know what you're talking about, it doesn't take much. People, when you talk to people and you be around people, you can figure out who people are pretty quickly, right? Because we live in a world of controversy, stress, and that makes what you say and what you do, if it's not the same, is going to be on full display, right? Because most people fall into their natural habits once that stress hits. A game is on the line. We're losing, right? A player is not executing the right way. Who do you become then? Is it the person that you said in the meetings, or are you this whole different person when that occurs? So I think it happens at every single level. Obviously, the older you are and you're dealing with grown men as players, they've been around the block several times. And so it probably takes them, maybe a week or two. Oh, man, this dude is not that dude, right? And so I think that's probably the biggest difference. As you age up, I can identify it, or those players can identify it much quicker. And the other thing is that they have more of a leverage to actually say something about it, right? Like you're not gonna have an 8-year-old call out their coach, but you're gonna have a grown man that's in that building like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, man. That's dumb, right? Because you've been around some other good coaches. So that's the biggest difference that I'll see, right? It happens quicker, and then those players are gonna let you know that you don't know what you're talking about.
I coach my daughter's 8U travel softball team, so I'm now in that world also, where parents sometimes may think they know more than the coach. Sometimes they do. Most of the time they don't, but it is certainly a different era. And Lorenzo, you and I are from a similar era, close to the same age. Appreciate getting your perspective on everything going on in the NFL. Thanks for joining us on this Friday, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you as well. Enjoy it.
Lorenzo Alexander doing a great job with us on the show. It's fascinating to me when you look at this, Kelly, because of a certain generation, you just never question the coach, right? Ever. Like, you just did it. Like, hey, go run 5 suicides because you missed the front end of a 1-and-1 in your high school basketball game. You did it. You didn't question anything. That was me growing up. We are in a different era now, for good or bad, where players question coaches all the time. Parents question coaches a lot more all the time. And I think that's been a big change, and we're seeing some of that spill over into the NFL and maybe be a problem for Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick. Who knows? I do know this, that when we come back, we're going to play a little game called Overrated, Underrated, Christmas Edition. Movies, songs, a little bit of everything when we come back. Let's have some fun. This is Hot Mic across the OutKick Network.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. I'm like, but if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what?
1,000.
20,000. That's a lot of money.
Hey, and shit.
You don't get that lady a real answer.
No, for real. Ain't it how much you make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking. Okay. So we did a custom order to do my ring.
I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats.
Okay.
And it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive.
What's way too expensive?
Like $45,000.
Okay.
Wow.
You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment?
Couldn't care less.
Do we think gender roles are a thing of the past, or we should bring them back?
I feel like it depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like, that should be your partner, your teammate. Like, I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom.
I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes, very much so.
What is it about, like, a motherly quality that you like?
It's worked for thousands of years, and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional gender roles.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a light. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
My friend, do you know what Riz means?
Yeah, Riz is like, it's like game. You know what game is? Like when you're trying.
I don't have any, but I know what it is.
It's like the new word for game. So meaning like you're able to speak well and get, a date kind of.
I do not.
Do you have any guess?
I could guess.
What do you think?
It's like, I don't know, razzle dazzle, I don't know.
Kind of. Actually, you're not too far off. Charisma.
Riz, charisma, I've been able to talk someone up.
Did you read that online, or did you already know what that meant?
I'm on TikTok way too much.
Okay, another word that has become very popular this year. Do you know what mentee B means?
I don't know any of this stuff. I'm not on social media. I don't know any of it.
What about mentee B? Do people use the word mentee B in real life?
What is that?
You don't know mentee B?
I've never heard of mentee.
A mental breakdown?
What?
Mentee B.
A mental breakdown.
Oh, you have a mentee B.
I didn't know that. But I like that. I didn't know that, but I like that.
Mentee B, is that like the chocolate mint thing?
What does mentee B mean?
I have no idea. I don't know what that is. Mentee B, you ever heard?
You don't know mentee B?
I've never heard mentee B. Never in my life.
We're back. It's Hot Mic across the OutKick network on this Friday, heading into Christmas holiday weekend. Hope everyone out there safe, sound, and getting ready for a great weekend. Hopefully a few days off work. Speaking of days off work, Jonathan Hutton has a day off work right now. Kelly Stewart does not. Kelly in Vegas, my co-host today on Hot Mic, doing a great job as always. Hutton and Kelly will be on next Tuesday through Friday. Kelly will be here in this luxurious studio at 6th and Peabody next week. Kelly, will this be your first time in this studio?
Yeah, I've been to Nashville a few times this year, but never in studio. So I'm very excited to be able to do that. It's been a long time since I've been in studio, in fact. I've been working remote about the last 3 years or so at this point. So excited to be back into a real place. We'll see. Hopefully I don't get too intimidated.
I would not do well working remote. I like to have a physical place to go work every day. The lights are a little bit, brighter, different in here, but nothing you can't handle. You're going to love it. So, and I'm shocked that we never invited you in studio when you were in town. So anytime you're in Nashville,
we were too busy
you're always
having
welcome.
drinks on Broadway.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't ever really for a work event. I was there for a birthday and then for Clay Travis's Halloween party. So
yeah,
work didn't really
Broadway
fit in the
always gets in
equation.
the way. Anyone who ever came to Nashville to do any business, Broadway gets in the way every time for those that have been here. This place you can have some fun at too here at 6th and Peabody. So Christmas weekend coming up. Christmas, of course, on Monday. Want to have a little fun with a little segment, Kelly, I call Overrated, Underrated. And we're going to go with some Christmas staples on this, okay? I'm going to let you begin each time, and maybe I'll share your opinion on some. Maybe I'll crush your opinion on others. But let's start with, I want to start negative and then go positive. So let's start overrated Christmas movie division. What is your overrated Christmas movie that everyone is talking about this time of year?
I would have said National Lampoons, but then I knew I would have got buried for it.
Please. I was about to say, please say any movie but Christmas Vacation, which is a classic. So move right on from that. Let's not get into it.
I've seen it too many times. At this point in time, like when the person on the couch next to you can recite everything that is about to be said, it becomes a little overrated. But in my real personal opinion, A Christmas Story is overrated. Some of these movies probably just become obsolete. I remember seeing it the first time when I was a kid, no problem. But now it's on all the time. You catch a glimpse of it. Never once have I had a desire to watch it start to finish. Yet again, a lot of really cheesy moments where I'm just like, I think you're just a touch overrated.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this. Christmas Story is so highly rated and it's so played so much, it can only be overrated, right? There's no argument that it's underrated because it's so highly rated, and that's a lot of things. I don't hate the movie. I think it's a fine piece of Christmas mythology, right? But it's also, if you're going to play it round the clock on TBS or TNT or wherever it is on now, and maybe it's part of my childhood. Growing up, it was always on TV nonstop too, on Christmas Day. And when I would see it was always after I opened gifts as a kid. So I was always kind of bummed at that point. And then it's just on in the middle of the day when you're doing nothing. So I may have a little PTSD that I see that movie in my mind.
Your serotonin and endorphin levels like went through the roof and then they crashed because you opened up all of your gifts in 4 minutes.
That's exactly right. The visual of that movie to me is me coming down off a Christmas gift high on Christmas morning and watching it while looking for anything else to do and going through my gifts. That's part of it, like the fall off after opening gifts. I also just think that it's fine, but it's just not great. Not great at all. In fact, I'm going to go to my underrated one now because there's a tie-in here. Underrated Christmas movie, and I bet a lot of our audience has never seen or heard of this movie.
I definitely have not.
8-Bit Christmas. It is a movie that was on HBO Max, on HBO and HBO Max 2 years ago. Neil Patrick Harris, Steve Zahn, and it's Neil Patrick Harris playing the father of a young girl, telling the story. It's in present day, and then he's telling her the story of his favorite gift as a kid. And it's basically a modern retelling of A Christmas Story, except the Red Ryder BB gun is now the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And all he wants is the Nintendo, the NES, the original, in 1988. So the movie goes back to him as a kid in 1988. And it turns out to be much like Christmas Story. It's a movie about a father and a son, right? And what ends up happening and then the connection that they share. Really good. It's a fine way to spend 90 minutes over this Christmas weekend. So if you have not seen that, it's streaming at, I think it's not even HBO Max, it's just Max. Streaming on Max this weekend. Go check it out. Kelly, you've never heard or seen this movie, right?
No, I haven't. But I guess as somebody who is so excited to get a Nintendo, that's actually how I found out Santa Claus wasn't real, was the Nintendo was hidden in the extra bedroom closet. And then it said from Santa. And I said, well, it's been in the closet for a couple weeks. Why would Santa put it there? And, the joys of being an only child.
You are every parent's pain, is what I'm hearing. That you're so logical when you come back. Well, it's been in the guest room closet, so I don't know how that's possible. I love that though. What was your first game on the NES? Mario Brothers?
No, Duck Hunt.
Okay.
My dad's a big hunter, and I remember you talk about the Christmas high. So then you get to plug it in, right? The red and the white and the yellow, and you finally get it to work. And he puts in Duck Hunt. And for like the next hour, I had to sit there while he played Duck Hunt, of course.
Amazing.
So
I had remember it was almost like Twister, but it was that electronic
the track pad.
The track and field game.
Yeah.
I mean, I would sweat so hard trying to run as fast as you could on that track and field game, on that pad where you don't even pick your feet up completely, but you're moving those feet as fast as possible. We have like an old school NES in my house I got for Christmas one year, but it's not the full NES, but it has pre-recorded games on it you can play. This morning I played my 8-year-old daughter in Tecmo Bowl. And I'm happy to tell you that I took Seattle, one of the worst teams in the game. She took San Francisco, and I won 35-27. So I still found a way to win. But NES, all-time gift, no doubt about it. What is your underrated movie?
Yeah, I love comedies. I am not like a romantic comedy movie. I hate scary movies. So I always just want to laugh. And as a person from an extended family, right? I have half sisters, I have cousins, I've got, 2 different Christmases, and then now dating somebody who also is a product of divorce. 4 Christmases is a very underrated movie because it's exactly what he and I want to do every year. Go on vacation instead of spend family at 4 different people's houses. All jokes aside, we're not doing that this year. Last year we did jet set off to St. Croix instead of spending Christmas with everybody, but this year we are going to be hosting Christmas. But it is different than the movie because at least we can get all the extended families over here to get along for at least a little period of time.
Do you go on like 1 year on, 1 year off, 1 year with family, 1 year going to the beach somewhere? Is that how you work it now?
Living in Las Vegas, I always went somewhere. Always. Because you always wanted to leave Vegas. Now that I live in a resort type of vacation area instead of a party vacation area, I feel like I can go to the beach whenever I want. So maybe now that the nieces are getting a little bit older, it's more enjoyable to see them open up all the presents, right? Like that's the fun part about Christmas. You were texting me earlier with our producer, Nick, and I was like, bah humbug. I'm not a big Christmas person. And that means for adults. I love Christmas for the kids, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, kids bring back Christmas. You get into like early adulthood where it just doesn't mean much at all to you. And then once kids are around at all, it does bring back the Christmas feeling. Also, Vince Vaughn, terribly underrated in my opinion.
God, he's great.
Terrific in pretty much everything he's ever done. So I like that movie just simply because he's in it. All right. Overrated Christmas song, Kelly. What are you going with?
You know, there's all these old songs out there, and I'm not talking Frank Sinatra. Like those types of older songs are wonderful, but I'm talking the ones that grandma wants to listen to somehow on YouTube because they don't even exist on Apple Music or Pandora or Spotify or any of the above. And the audio is terrible and the lyrics don't make any sense. Some of those really, really old Christmas songs, they just have to go. They're just so overrated.
Yeah, it's like anything by Bing Crosby. You're probably not a big fan of. Another one is Andy Williams has a lot of those hits. Yeah. Those are not the best. I'm kind of with you on that.
I love old country music. I love, like old country music, Hank Williams, those. But again, that's like that. There's like a threshold. Let's call it 1945, pre-World War II, 1945. Anything older than that, that is overrated.
Yeah, you're singing Tyler Castle, one of our producers in studio here, his love language when you talk about old country. My overrated song, and I think a lot of people love this one, and I love the band. I love Wham, unabashedly. Love George Michael, love Wham. They had some absolute bangers back in the day. I watched the documentary on Netflix, very entertained by it, very informed. I hate Last Christmas by Wham. This was an entry to get Top of the Pops or Top of the Pop chart in England. The UK Christmas chart is a big deal, and a lot of people vie for number one on Christmas Day in the UK, and this was one back in the 80s that they had that I believe reached number one. And it's a standard now. Every Christmas season, you walk around a shopping mall somewhere, you're going to hear Last Christmas by Wham. I think it's overrated. Of the entire canon of Wham and the great songs they produced, Last Christmas is close to the bottom of my list. Kelly, do you agree or disagree?
I would agree that the Wham Netflix show with George Michael was awesome. Predated me just a little bit. So I text my older sister and I asked her, I said, was this like really that big of a craze? And she goes, oh my God, we were all in love with George Michael. So that was fun to see. I don't even know what song you're talking about, but now when we go to commercial, I am going to listen to it because surely I've heard it, right? I mean,
you'll know it. Play it during the break and we'll come back and you'll hear the first chords to it. You'll say, oh yeah, I know exactly what this is. Andrew Ridgeley also with Wham, great part of that documentary. All right, most overrated Christmas gift. Kelly, you have the floor.
I really think that when women get bought clothes, it is so overrated. It's a pain in the butt to go return it to get the right size or something different in that attribute. I've always hated whenever my parents bought me clothes for Christmas or like, a female family member's like, oh my gosh, I found these boots and I thought they were perfect for you. And I'm going, no. And then you have to keep them in your closet for 2 years or try to find a time to wear them around said person. It's just stop buying women clothes. Guys are easy. Buy them some t-shirts that they love, buy them a jacket for their favorite team, a jersey, no problem. Stop buying women clothes. Like get them a gift card or something.
Yeah, my argument is women know clothes and what they like way better than any man. So let them pick out exactly what they want in the size and style they want. Don't ever try to do that and guess what they're going to like. You usually fail.
Could you imagine if you bought your wife a large and she's really a small? Can you imagine if you buy something that's really ugly and you're like, oh, but this looks like something else I thought you had in your closet and it doesn't? I mean, there's so many snafus and so many things that could go wrong in your purchase unless she says, I want this from X store. This is the size. This is the color. Just avoid it at all costs.
The worst thing you can get is told that you bought me something that looks old lady. Like that looks too old. It's not the wrong size or anything, but like, hey, this seems like you. And if that you is perceived to be older than the person, then that's a problem. So yeah, just avoid it. I'm with you, Kelly. Good advice for all guys out there. Don't buy women's clothes for Christmas as their Christmas gift. Overrated for me, any electronic device. Like iPad, new iPhone, any of that stuff, I just don't think of that as a good Christmas gift. I feel like if you want to go get the new iPhone, you go and get it pre-programmed and do all that and transfer all your numbers over and take care of it yourself. It's kind of a process you want to go, just like women buying their own clothes. They want to go on that process on their own. I feel the same about devices. So to me, that's an overrated Christmas gift. Underrated Christmas gift, We've got about 45 seconds left here, so we'll say it because we pretty much have the same answer. Kelly, you're going cash. I'm going gift cards. I do think a gift card is a little bit more specific and a little bit more personal than cash.
It's too specific.
But if you know the person, if they tell you, I shop here all the time, and you give them that, you're giving them the route to say, okay, when you go to that store next time, think of me, because now you're buying this from me. Now cash kind of does the same thing too, I guess.
I put a $100 bill on my niece's Christmas card because she didn't give me an appropriate list in my mind. She went absolutely berserk over a $100 bill. I think a Best Buy gift card, a Target gift card would not have got the same response. There's something about that blue, crisp $100 bill. They lose their minds.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, the bold taste of a Southern legend.
We're back. Final hour of the week. Congratulations, everyone. You've almost made it. Everybody in studio right now, jacked up, excited, ready for the big weekend. That's right. You heard Tyler back there. Give us a woo. Just sounds like the woo girls here on bachelorette parties in Nashville. That's the vibe every day here at 6th and Peabody. Outside in the bar area and inside of this studio, we're basically a bunch of woo girls. That's how excited we are to be here at 6th and Peabody with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton out today. He'll be back next week. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, doing a wonderful job for us all week. Kelly, when you were in Nashville, you know all about the woo girls that are all over town. They're hanging off pedal taverns. They're hanging off tractors, military vehicles all over the city, and they are having a great time.
I was so happy when Nashville became the bachelorette capital of America because that means they left Las Vegas.
That's true. That's true. They are now out of Vegas, so that's definitely good news for you. We're going to get to Kelly's betting segment. Kelly joins us, of course, every week. Catch her on the Fade also every week with Clay Travis. Catch that weekly as part of the OutKick Network. Wherever you get podcasts also, go check that out for sure. We're going to get to Kelly's bets. Also, and try to fit a lot into this segment. We're going to get to our dumpster fire of the week a little bit later in this segment as well. And a reminder, Gun Show coming up at 5:20 Eastern Time. Mike Gunselman will join us. But Kelly, every week we normally start with me and Hutton making a plea to you. We pitch our bet for the weekend, but now that Hutton's not here, I guess you just have to either say, give me like the Commodus, Joaquin Phoenix, and Gladiator, the thumbs up or the thumbs down on my bet here, since I'm the only one offering one. I really want to take UCF tonight, -6.5 against Georgia Tech. I know you're going to talk about this too. It is tough to predict bowl games and what's going to happen with opt-outs and everything else, and motivation. I think a key factor with certain teams, motivation and what they're playing for, and you can tell early on in games who's motivated and who's not a lot of times. And when you get a game where both teams are in it to win it, it's fun. And bowl games can still be fun when you get that rare matchup when that happens. It's close to home. It's in Tampa tonight, that game. I'm not going to go there, though. I think Northwestern's a good story. They had a really good season. Proud of David Braun getting the job under difficult circumstances. I think Utah is way more rugged than even Northwestern, who tries to play very rugged. I just think they're far better. 6.5 is not enough in that game. I'm going Utah over Northwestern -6.5 in their bowl game.
Do you think that Cam Rising is going to play? I mean, we've only been hearing that since week one. You never know what to expect with this Utes team. I took their season win total under 8.5. Kind of had a sweat there for a minute, but we got it cash, and that means that Utah had a major letdown. Remember last year? They'd won their back-to-back Pac-12 championship in, well, this exact same town, the Las Vegas Bowl. They've been there before. There's some familiarity. So I can see why you think the Utes might come in and steamroll this Northwestern team. But there's nothing here for Utah, right? They have nothing to play for. This is a Northwestern team that did a tremendous job of picking up the pieces after Pat Fitzgerald got fired. They had a season win total projection of 3.5. So to get to this bowl game, to win 8 games is nothing short of incredible. I think they capitalize on it here. I think it's going to be a very close game. Hopefully the Wildcats get the win, but I took 7 way early in the bowl season. I know I said that there was only a few bowl games I bet. This was one of them. Utah just doesn't win bowl games. They've dropped 4 straight, and they just don't play well against the Big Ten either. 1-3 against the spread in their last 4 against the Big Ten. Pac-12, we talk about bowl games and conferences all the time. The SEC is terrible in bowl games. The Pac-12 is even worse. 6-21 in their last 27 bowl games. Come on. You know what to do, Chad.
I tried to go back to college basketball because I hit last week on Texas and a couple
others. That was
others.
a great win.
I didn't find anything I loved, though, in college basketball over the weekend. So
yeah, there's not much on the slate, right? A lot of these guys are either getting to go home for a couple days or staying on campus with, some of the other teammates. It's tough. I looked at the slate for tomorrow. I ultimately passed. There's a couple good games on the slate tonight, but we're talking NFL now.
No doubt. And a lot of NFL games starting tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, NFL games. That's good news for all of us that love sports and all of us that love to gamble. Kelly, we're starting with the Falcons, who I thought last week Arthur Smith put his job in a lot of jeopardy. I think if they just avoided complete disaster down the stretch, he would be back. That was the start of a disastrous ending, though, losing to a one-win Panthers team. Do they bounce back this week?
Yeah, I think that they do. Here's the problem. I laid 1 with the Falcons on Monday. It's now 2.5. At a certain point in time, we got to say, all right, the good number has passed us by. The Colts 8-6 on the year, and they have been making their backers a ton of money. They've also played a very favorable schedule, right? So something to keep in mind there. They still are sitting on the outside looking into the playoff picture. Falcons just lost their top spot there in the NFC South after losing to that said one-win Panthers team. We're going to see if, well, here's the problem. Taylor Heineke, is better than Desmond Ridder. And I think Arthur Smith probably knew that. That might not save his job, but here's what they have to do. They're going to have to get Bijan Robinson involved. If he is not involved, they are not going to win this game. I know a lot of people are making a big deal about Jonathan Taylor coming back for the Colts, but I'm not buying the hype here. Again, I laid 1 with the Falcons. At this point in time, you're treading a little close. Now, 2, 2.5, not key numbers. 3 is a key number, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this one stay right here at 2.5 come kickoff tomorrow.
What is it about Sunday. The name Taylor Heineke that makes me want to say Tyler Heineke every time too? Every time I see that, other guys named Taylor, I say Taylor, but for whatever reason, I want his name to be Tyler Heineke, and I can't quite figure out, does it roll out the tongue better? I don't know. Either way, Taylor Heineke starting for the Falcons this weekend. Staying in the NFC South, Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, great performance, perfect QB rating in Lambeau Field this last week. Do they continue that success this weekend?
Now, normally I'd like to not back a team that just looked so good in a win, especially that very impressive win over Green Bay. I don't know how I truly feel about Baker, but I will say this. He has silenced me for now. We've got a guy who's on a 1-year contract who is playing his complete and utter tail off. So I've got to give him credit where it's due. Buccaneers covered 7 of their last 9, right? This has been a team that has been red hot. Jaguars, now, while they keep saying it might be CJ Beathard, Trevor Lawrence has not missed a game. And I have to wonder if he's not going to be marching his way out there and we see this one come back down. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. At 2.5, I laid 1 on Monday. 2.5, I think it's a little late to be laying points with the Bucs. But once Lawrence is announced that he will be starting, this line is going to take a lot of water in, right? And that water is going to be Jaguars money. I expect Tampa Bay's defense to be able to do what they do best, right? Todd Bowles is the head coach of that team, and I was really critical of him after that really ugly Eagles loss. But this defense has really turned things around. And this offense averaging 26 points per game over the last 4 games. I got to take the Bucs here. But again, kind of be wary. You might be able to get a better number if Trevor is announced the starter.
Did I read that correctly, that Trevor Lawrence has never missed a start? Like, even going back to junior high and youth football, has never missed a game. That is remarkable. So
here's everybody speculating that it's going to be CJ Beathard. And I go, until I see otherwise, I'm assuming it's going to be Trevor. But I can see why the market has not caught up with it yet. Also, they took a ton of Bucs money early.
Could be watching history over the weekend if Trevor Lawrence fails to make his first ever start. Cowboys-Dolphins, a game we're all going to be watching this weekend, Kelly. Where's the smart money?
The smart money's on the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys have really kind of fallen off. Last week, they got throttled by the Buffalo Bills. And while this is their second road game, you kind of wonder, all right, what are we going to see from this Cowboys team? The offensive line has allowed Dak to get sacked 10 times over the last 3 weeks, and that is not fun. Of course, Dak is being accused of just being a game manager. He's not elite. There's all of these outside noises. Well, the Dolphins, what do? They just kicked the crap out of the Jets. I mean, I thought Jets catching double digits on the road might be worth a play. Boy, was I wrong. Tua has looked elite, right? The last 2 weeks, you got Tyreek Hill, who is possibly going to be back, but does it even matter? Because you have Jalen Waddle. you got to have to kind of keep an eye on that one as well. But I like the Cowboys here to right the ship. I really like the cohesiveness, the chemistry with CeeDee Lamb. I really like how Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson are all coming into the mix here. Dak has options. They can get the running game going, really open up this offense. I think this is a coin flip game, and I think the Cowboys win it.
Say what you want about Josh Dobbs, but Josh Dobbs at least would pick up the quarterback sneak one of the 2 times for the first down that ended up dooming Cincinnati in that game. Lesson here, run the sneak with quarterbacks who are good at it. It's the most underrated play in football. If the quarterback knows they're doing, don't run a quarterback sneak with Nick Mullins in at quarterback. That's the Vikings learned this past weekend. Crazy to think about this Vikings team now. Still in the mix, though, Kelly. With Nick Mullins still at quarterback, are you riding with the Vikes this weekend?
I am. I love fading Detroit on the road. Lions up 3 games over the Vikings in the NFC North. So that's the good news for Lions fans. We're going to see if they can keep that 3 seed in the conference, but I have a feeling Minnesota is going to wreak some havoc this weekend. How they lost that game last weekend was pretty mind-boggling. Luckily, I was not involved. I would have been sick to my stomach. Minnesota 6-0 as divisional home dogs. Yeah, that's right. Kevin O'Connell. He's following in the footsteps of one of my favorite coaches. That's Mike Zimmer. Why? Because there are certain spots to play on this team and certain spots to play against. I like the Vikings here. I do think Nick Mullins is better than Josh Dobbs as long as he's not running that said quarterback sneak.
We'll find out. We'll find out soon enough with Nick Mullins. 0-1. Josh Dobbs 3-2 in games he played. The Ravens looking to get 1-0 this weekend, Kelly. Biggest game of the weekend. Monday Night Football on Christmas night. Ravens-Niners. What's the play?
Yeah, I'm taking the Ravens. I know a lot of people are going to be taking the Ravens. And I kind of understand why they ended up being the square dog. What did we just talk to Lorenzo? He said San Francisco. Yes, they are the Super Bowl favorite. But these 2 teams are neck and neck. If you look at them on paper, they're both 11-3. Of course, they both need a win here so they can get that number 1 seed in their conference. But I do think either one of these teams can still afford a loss and that to happen. Beside the point, 15-3-2. That is almost 84% against the spread. That is the Baltimore Ravens as an underdog since 2019. You almost have to blindly play on this team. So for that alone, I'm all over the Ravens. I took the 5.5. Do I think they win this game? No, but would I be surprised to see a Justin Tucker 49-yard field goal to win it as time expires? 31-30 final? Absolutely.
Make some money with Kelly. Kelly in Vegas, her picks this week. There they are. You can catch everything also with the fade with Clay Travis and Kelly Stewart. Kelly in Vegas every single week as part of the OutKick Network. Wherever you listen to podcasts, want to watch the show, you can do it all. OutKick.com. Find that show. Subscribe to it. Watch it weekly and get some winners. It's Dumpster Fire of the Week time. I'll start. I want to spend a little bit more time on Kelly's discussing it. So I'll get mine out of the way. It's a program that's 3 or 4 miles down the road from the studio right now. Vanderbilt basketball under Jerry Stackhouse. Vanderbilt is a once proud basketball school and tradition. Memorial Gym, a very old venue. But when they get that place rocking, it is rocking. It's not rocking right now. No one's going to games, and quite frankly, I cannot blame them. Vanderbilt, all the talk about Louisville being at a dumpster fire, and they are. They were one of my dumpster fires. Do you know the one school in a power conference that has a lower net ranking right now than Louisville? It's the Vanderbilt Commodores. Vanderbilt has not played a single Quad 1 game so far this year. Yet they've managed to go 0-3 against Quad 2, 1-3 against Quad 3, and 3-1 against Quad 4. That is abysmal. In year 4 for Jerry Stackhouse, a guy who loves to block people on social media, that's not overly active in the Nashville community, things don't look great for him and his future at Vanderbilt. Things don't look good for the future of this Vanderbilt team either. They are my dumpster fire of the week. Kelly Stewart, you have the floor with your dumpster fire.
Yeah, these bowl games have been absolute and utter dumpster fires. I know it got to a point where everybody's like, all right, there's just too many bowl games. And I'm like, okay, you guys are no fun. This is bowl season. This is exciting. I love it. Okay, I think I've had enough. The bowl games are the dumpster fire. We had a tight end playing quarterback last night for the Syracuse Orange. At what point in time was anybody going to make that announcement? We had it happen in the New Mexico State Fresno State game where Keene, who was supposed to be the starter all year but was banged up, Fife said he's out for the bowl game. Never once were we told that the guy who was supposed to be the starter all along, that's why I made the joke about Cam Rising. Would it shock me for Utah to march out Cam Rising in that bowl game? Because that is what a dumpster fire these bowl games have been, Chad. Old Dominion up 28-0, loses outright. What are we doing here? You know, I asked Barrett Salih last week, I said, Barrett, and he's like, oh, what are you talking about, Cal? I'm excited. I'm excited for the Peach Bowl. I'm excited for the college football playoff. Those are fine. This is a dumpster fire. I am not watching it. I am not wagering on it. I want half of these bowl games to go away at this point in time.
It's tough. I'm always more football is better for me typically. But it's rough when I hate that so many teams don't care. I think that's my biggest crux of all of this and where I fall. And I still like the games, and I like that we have something during the middle of the week that I can tune into for even if it's 5 minutes, like the blowout last night between USF and Syracuse. Not watching a ton of that, but I will watch a little bit of it. But I want more guys and more teams to care about it the way they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's one of 13 opportunities you have in a given year. And you're practicing and working out the rest of the time for one of those 13 games. So care about it. Seems pretty simple to me. Apparently not. Gun Show. Mike Gunselman coming up next. We're going to up the energy. This is Hot Mike across the OutKick Network.
It depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like that should be your partner, your teammate. Like I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom. I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out. Yeah. So he's gonna have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes, very much so.
What is it about like a motherly quality that you like?
It's worked for thousands of years and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional to girls.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a light. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. I'm like, but if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what?
1,000.
20,000. That's a lot of money.
Hey, and shit.
You don't get that lady a real answer.
Not for real. Ain't it how much she make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking. Okay. So we did a custom order to do my ring. I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats.
Okay.
And it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive.
What's way too expensive?
Like $45,000.
Okay. Wow. You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment?
Couldn't care less.
Red flags in dating, because obviously you found each other. Did you have any icks that you overlooked, or is he perfect?
No, he's perfect. We had a nice night out at the bar. Fought over a toy shark, and that's how it all got started.
What don't you like? Red flags?
Cheating, lying, stuff like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in a woman?
Honesty, respect, in love for herself.
Some green flags are loyalty and trustworthy, red flags are seeking attention from other women.
Jealousy, probably biggest thing, especially being around other girls all the time and having other girlfriends. That would be the number one thing, is jealousy.
Red flag is they're on their phone too much. Green flag is they're on their phone a lot with you.
Well, look for loyalty. That's it. I'm 24, so it's hard to come across that like when you're young. So that's really all I look for, really, honestly.
What were deal breakers?
If she was broke, I know that sounds crazy, but for real, if she was broke. Cause like it's like, yeah, like I don't want to take care of a motherfucker. Like I want to equal.
We are back on OutKick Hot Mic. I'm Chad Withrow, your host. Kelly Stewart filling in for us today. And it is time for a gun show. Mike Gunselman at the gun show on social media. Always ready to bring it. Always ready to go. Up in New York for the holidays. The Upper East Side looks a lot different this time of year right now, Guns, based on your backdrop right now. I love it.
So funny story. I'm actually so I'm back at my dad's, and like I was in charge of watching my one niece today. Just like not in charge, but kind of in charge.
Being a good uncle like you are.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm still working and stuff. I just watch the kid, make sure it doesn't burn down the house. Well, instead, she got a hold of like nail polish and threw it all over the walls, all over the bathroom walls. My dad is going to kill me when he comes home. So
how old is the niece?
6.
Ooh.
So it is not good. I'm telling like this is bad. I need to be. The reason I have a beach as a background is because I need to be on a beach. I need to get the heck out of here because I am going to be in so much trouble. I'm going to have to paint the walls. I am going to have to paint these walls. I'm telling you, it is a mess. It looks like a murder scene of just nail polish.
I don't want to bury the niece here, but at 6 years old, she should know better. So someone should
no,
definitely
she should not, Chad.
No. Oh, it's
she
6?
probably was like painting her nails and it dropped and it just went everywhere.
Well,
I guarantee she
if
wasn't
it was
like
an accident,
throwing it against the wall.
No, I think what Guns is saying is she started painting the walls, right?
It was like holding like a rally thing. You know what I mean? Just spinning it in circles.
Okay, fine. I agree with Chad. She's too old.
Yeah.
Yep.
My 4-year-old would do
no.
something like that, but she would know exactly what she was doing. But she's got enough meanness in her that she would do it just to see what would happen. But she would know exactly what was happening as she did it. So 6 years old definitely knew. You got Uncle Guns in trouble with that one. Guns, maybe you need an escape over the weekend with a great holiday movie. By the way, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. Thanks for hopping on with us today. We had this discussion earlier. Overrated, underrated, holiday edition with movies was one of the categories. Do you have one that immediately pops to mind as either overrated or underrated?
How about this? I'm actually dropping this article tomorrow. I truly believe that Home Alone 2, all right, is one of the greatest sequels of all time. I don't think it nearly gets as much credit as it should. I think it's up there, Empire Strikes Back, Godfather 2, and then Home Alone 2. Where listen, sequels normally stink. Sequels are normally awful. I think Home Alone 2 is a great sequel that I can watch that at any given moment. I would say underrated because the first one is so good, but Home Alone 2 is not that bad. Not bad at all.
I think you just like it that it's based in New York. I mean, it's a good movie, but I feel like you have like a little bias in your article.
I'm with Guns, too. Now, the first one's better, but the second one of the best sequels ever. Rocky 2 is really good as a sequel, maybe not as good as the original. Rocky 4 is very good. Many argue better than any of them. Rocky 4. I like the Home Alone 2 argument. Are you counting the version of the movie where they took the Donald Trump part out? Because they actually stream the movie now without Donald Trump in it, who makes a cameo in the original movie, which is just an insane move to just take out a guy who was president of the U.S. Oh, he can't be in the movie anymore, guys. We don't want to expose people to the former president of the U.S. in this holiday movie.
I single-handedly, the only reason I even know what the Plaza Hotel is is because of the Donald Trump scene and because of that movie. I mean, there's so many classic one-liners. You know, the third one was a disaster. They tried redoing it again with this other one. Listen, the new ones stink. Home Alone 2 holds up. There's so many classic one-liners. The booby traps, Marvin Harry, the running around, the talk boy, credit card, you got it. Like, get on your knees and tell me you love me. There's so many good lines from this movie. Go rewatch it this weekend, my friends. You'll love it. You'll thank me later.
I got to watch it unedited. Otherwise, I want no part.
Yeah.
I forgot he was even in that movie, but now I just remembered you know why they took him out? Because he's helpful. He's trying to help Kevin.
Yeah.
I just remember that you can't paint him in that kind of light.
No,
nope,
yeah, well, way too
to.
favorable for him helping the child that was lost in the I think it was like a hotel lobby that he runs into him in the movie.
He set up the path to destruction that Kevin Callister was going to do, though. See, there's something there. There's something behind it, I'm sure, because he told him where the front desk was. Yeah, very sinister that Donald Trump is.
So this piece at OutKick coming out tomorrow, you said, arguing for Home Alone 2?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Yeah,
okay,
it's going to be a fun one. I also did another one on a couple weeks ago on the top 5 worst Christmas songs.
Oh, this is good. Give us a sample of some of the worst.
Okay. All right, so number 5. I cannot stand Last Christmas by Wham.
Yes. That was my most overrated all time, Guns. I knew we were best friends.
My God.
I think we just became best friends. That's my most overrated all time. And I love Wham. Kelly even watched the documentary also. Love the documentary on Netflix. Love that they've got multiple bangers. Last Christmas, definitely not one of them.
I hate that song. That's number 5. Number 4 is that Dominic the Donkey song, whatever the hell that's about. I skipped that one. Little Drummer Boy. If I pum, like, kill me. Number 2, Santa Baby. Santa Baby just sounds creepy as hell. Santa Baby, like all this like roulette, like burlesque stuff. Like, no, just shuddering at it. I hate that song. No matter what version, there's like 100 versions of it. They all stink.
That was like 1940s provocative, before OnlyFans. That's what that was provocative material back in the day. Was women singing Santa Baby.
Yeah, like swinging off swings and stuff. Like, I don't need that. Like, and then the worst song of all time, Christmas related, and I love the guy, Paul McCartney, but Wonderful Christmas Time is garbage. There's nothing wonderful about that song. That song is trash. Wonderful. It's like, go listen to that song with like headphones on, and it is a weird, creepy. Even Paul McCartney has to hate that song. I hate that song when it comes on the radio.
It's also the ultimate earworm, and not in a good way. You hear that song once, and the simply, it's almost designed. I feel like it's engineered to stick in your head forever, even though
like
you want it out of your head.
Whopper song. It's like the Whopper song that I can't escape either. This is my nightmare. So what do you think? Where would you put number 1? Like, do you like that Paul McCartney song? Because I truly can't stand that song.
No, I don't like that one either. I think you got a pretty good list. Little Drummer Boy is a good entry because for a song with that title, you think it'd be uplifting, but it's a very depressing song, right? The pace of it, everything about it, Little Drummer Boy, depressing. I don't like depressing holiday classics. I like a little bit more upbeat. Last Christmas kind of has, sonically, it's depressing. I feel like the song, right? There's something about it that just doesn't connect. I think that's a good list that you came up with. We also
Kelly, what are you thinking, Kelly? You got a terrible song or what?
Yeah, we talked about a couple of things, and it was funny when you started listing off some of these older songs. I said anything like pre-World War II. Like I just like it comes on. I think it's like a Sirius XM channel that's like programmed in my dad's car, and it'll catch it every once in a while. And you're like, what are they even saying? The audio is so bad. Of course, because the music's like 80 plus years old, but it's in the lyrics. You said Santa Baby. What's the other one they tried to cancel, which was hilarious, but the lyrics are kind of weird. Like you got to have these.
Cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside was the one.
I saw Mama kissing Santa Claus or whatever, and you're like 7 and you're like, wait, why would she do that?
I never knew as a kid listening to Baby It's Cold Outside that there were like date rape implications apparently with people trying to get it canceled. I never thought of it that way.
I know a song from Elf. They sing it in Elf. I'm like, oh, this is a fun song. And then I'm like, oh, I guess it's controversial. I don't know. It's from Elf.
There's a lot of controversial songs. I don't know if you guys have listened to music lately or what the #1 song of the year is, but there are some really good ones out there that I probably wouldn't play in front of any children.
This just in, Kelly hates Nat King Cole and anything by him. That's not her era of music. No, it's It is crazy. It's another one bites the dust with certain things with that. So I like Baby It's Cold Outside as a song. Actually, that's one of my favorite ones. Yeah. So we also got into Christmas gifts, right? Okay. Overrated, underrated. Kelly went with buying clothes for women in your life. Overrated. Don't attempt it. Don't try it. Yeah. We both sort of agreed gift card / cash, very underrated as a Christmas gift. Where do you fall on this?
See, here's the thing. First of all, I don't even think I don't think you should buy women clothes ever, because I don't think it's ever going to turn out well for you. Honestly, unless you know exactly, unless it's like a fun thing, like maybe like an ugly Christmas sweater or something, like just a fun thing maybe. But like if you're being serious and trying to get your significant other that's a female clothes, don't. Just stop now. Just don't bother with it. It's never going to turn out well. Now, as far as the gift cards, here's the deal. I'm not a huge gift card person, because it's, you never the amount of I don't drink coffee, but the amount of Starbucks gift cards I have, I feel like it's almost like a cop out. Like, you didn't even try for me. Just try and give me something. I need something physical. I'm not a big gift card fan, like an Apple. People are like, oh, here's a $15 Apple gift card. When the hell am I buying music? I live on music. I ain't buying iTunes. What are you talking about? I'm streaming music. I'm not a big gift card person. Cash is fine, because cash money, let's go. But I'm more of a fan of just physical gifts. I want to unwrap a present. I don't want to just stare at a stupid card.
I'll give you, I'm with you. I'll give you one that's underrated that just popped in my mind that I got for Christmas one year. Membership or subscription to a streaming service as a Christmas gift is underrated. That's actually pretty cool. If someone buys you a year of whatever on a streaming service,
that's not bad. God knows we need it, because if I want to watch the NFL tomorrow night, it's on Peacock. Subscription. I got Buffalo Bills Chargers is going to be on Peacock only. So unless you have it for $5.99 a month, you can't watch it. Got Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime, Paramount. I don't know. Yeah, so that's a good one, because there's so much crap out there when it comes to streaming services.
It's better than buying the wrong size pants for your significant other. We definitely know that. We all agree on that one. You've written a lot this past week at OutKick.com. A lot of talk about Tommy Cutlets. Tommy DeVito, yeah. You're close to the motherland there, Guns, of Tommy DeVito. Stood up the Caniglio's old-fashioned pizzeria this week, but then made good on it. What do you make of that story? Clearly just a gaffe from Sean Stellato, his agent, but also this phenom that is Tommy DeVito in Jersey playing for his hometown team.
He's literally about 12 minutes away from me right now in central New Jersey. Listen, I think I'm 50% Italian. I love it because it's so random that it's awesome, and it came out of nowhere. And I liken the craze that's happening right now in the tri-state area with Tommy DeVito. I liken it to Linsanity. It's the same exact thing that happened with Jeremy Lin here. I wrote this whole comparison piece where they both came out of nowhere and just started dominating. And it's going to be a short-lived run. Like Linsanity went for a couple weeks or whatnot, and led them into playoffs or whatnot. And then you never heard from him again. It's going to be the same thing with Tommy DeVito, because, Daniel Jones, he's not going to be the starting quarterback next year for the Giants. And the fact that he got smoked last week, if he loses again this week to the Eagles, it's going to hurt his stock a lot. So it's the quick rise, but it's going to be also an even quicker fall if he loses to the Eagles this week. I did think that it was pretty interesting. He's cashing in, and listen, I'm all about making money. I'm all about capitalism here in America. Let's go. But it's almost make that money, bro. But he just trademarked Tommy Cutlets and passing Parmesan, and he's launching a tomato sauce and also an energy drink. I did this story yesterday. A freaking energy drink. The last thing we need on planet Earth is another energy drink, for the love of God, especially if it's from Tommy DeVito. I joked that if I drink this energy drink, I better be hopping around like the Super Mario Brothers video game. There's an Italian reference for you. You know what I mean? This thing better have me bouncing off the walls, because I don't need an energy drink from Tommy DeVito. Take it a step back a little bit, dude. Just focus on the chicken parm and the
Guns.
pizza.
He's got to make money somehow. The Giants aren't paying him.
Well,
you're right.
They're not going to pay him for too long.
They're 13.5-point underdogs to the Eagles. They're going to lose this week. I mean, that is like an 84.5% chance that they're probably going to lose. And don't quote me on that math because I don't have my chart in front of me. But in all seriousness,
and she went to Kansas State.
Yes. Listen, I want you to know my high school math teacher says he uses me as an example once a week about how you can get a D in high school algebra and have to retake it during the summer, and then you still use math on a daily basis. Okay, Chad?
Love it.
But all jokes aside, he's just trying to cash in. Now, do I think the energy drink thing is going to work? No, of course not. But he should be doing more $20,000 meet and greets and trying to make like a t-shirt or something funny that he can sell, because it is going to be short-lived. I bet he'll be a backup, maybe a practice squad guy, either for the Giants or some other subpar team next year.
Well, I just watched this, the Peyton's Places with Peyton Manning and Brian Bosworth about the Boz and how much money he made off his likeness before anyone was doing that. He was sort of the first NFL alter ego, and he only played for a year and a half before a shoulder injury. He couldn't play anymore for the Seahawks, and made a lot of money off that persona, the Boz, and became a movie star because of it. Maybe that's Tommy DeVito's future. Hey, quickly, we got about a minute left, Guns, but you're half Italian, so you can answer this. Is it okay for me to do the hands? I have no Italian. I'm not Italian at all, but can I still do the hand signal without getting canceled?
You just look cringe to me, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't come across the right way with like this Scotch-German roots that I have, right?
It does not work. I appreciate the effort, but it does not work. Let's leave that to Tommy DeVito and his vest-wearing fedora. Whatever.
You are canceling me because it sucks when I do it, not because it's appropriation, is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes.
So I'm safe with that, at least.
You're okay in my book.
Guns, you're the man. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and the family. And hopefully you don't get too bad blowback from the niece's mistake. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate you all. Let's go. Ballin'.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. that was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Final segment of Hot Mic on the OutKick Network for this week, on this Friday. Headed into Christmas weekend. Hope everyone out there safe, happy, ready to go for a big weekend. I'm Chad Withrow. We are live downtown Nashville studios at 6th and Peabody with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. Jonathan Hunt will be back on Tuesday. Kelly in Vegas co-hosting with me today. Kelly Stewart. She'll be in studio with Hutton on Tuesday as well. So much fun getting a chance to host these shows with you, Kelly. Appreciate you hanging in there 3 hours. Not a short time for a show. You've done a great job with it, though. And here we are, the final segment of the show once again. How are you holding up? How's the back?
My back is killing me. I joined a new Pilates studio this week, and it has really been reminding me that I used to once be an athlete. It's pretty funny and humbling, especially when it's day 3. I took one Monday, Wednesday, and then my girlfriend's like, we should try the advanced class. These are too easy. Yeah, I did a lot of almost falling on my face today. So back's not doing so good, but that's okay because it's almost time for a Christmas cocktail. And thank you for having me, Chad. You make this so easy. The 3 hours just fly by.
Well, I appreciate that. And you can pour the cocktail now. Don't worry.
I'm allowed to?
Oh, yeah.
Just right on air.
Right, absolutely. We are right downhill. Right. There's no FCC regulations for us. We're online, Kelly. You can do whatever the hell you want. Pour yourself a cocktail whenever you're ready. Have you ever done one of the boot camp classes? Because I did that probably 10 years ago and nearly died the first time I tried to actually do everything they were saying without coasting at any point. And I got about 20 minutes in and thought, I need to regulate my activity right now to make sure I don't have a heart attack in front of everyone here. Those are tough.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of tough things like CrossFit, etc., that I just have no desire to really destroy my body anymore, injure myself. That's why I thought Pilates, going to be nice and easy. Yeah, boy, was I wrong today.
Low impact is certainly the way to go. So, few headlines I want to hit before we say goodbye here. One, commercial-free fourth quarter on Peacock for Chargers-Bills tomorrow night. Is this a big deal, small deal, no deal when you look at it, especially considering that I like the idea and the concept of it, but they are going to cut away for short breaks in studio or with quick little features instead of commercials. So I think the break time is still going to be in there. It's just not going to be commercials during that time. It's interesting because, this is a game on Peacock that not everyone's going to either have a subscription or know how to find.
It is going to be interesting. Amazon, there was a learning curve, right? It's particularly at the bars and restaurants that, have to have a different type of subscription. We saw that with DirecTV before. But for me, it was real easy, right? And then I just plugged and played for my dad. I'm actually going to go up and see him tomorrow for an early Christmas. And I guarantee I'm going to have to figure out how to download Peacock on his TV because it's not going to be. But apparently, a lot of internet service providers are giving out Peacock for free for, I think, maybe 3 months, a year. I think it depends on where you're at. So I actually looked and it's already on my TV and I've already got a subscription. Needless to say, I'm still not going to watch Bills Chargers. I don't think it's going to be that great of a game. Would I be shocked if somehow the Chargers kind of came to play after firing Brandon Staley? Sure. Would I more or less say that while Lorenzo said that they should just, put their thumb down and crush the Chargers, I don't know if they're going to do that. They have a couple big games on deck. Nice one over Dallas. We call that in gambling a flat spot.
And see, to me, the reason to watch, if you're going to watch this game, is it has nothing to do with the Chargers or how they respond from Brandon Staley getting fired or anything. It's, do the Bills avoid disaster? Because that's what a loss to this Chargers team would be, right? Without Justin Herbert, with a new coach. That's it. I mean, it would be a huge story from the Bills' perspective if this game doesn't go their way. That's why I'm watching. And I think they will take care of business because, as you mentioned, Kelly, they've been playing better here lately.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to Josh Allen really finding a rhythm, right? There was a lot of just really egregious turnovers to start the year. There was a couple of choke jobs, most notably the one in Philadelphia. That one was a little painful for me, so it sticks out a little bit more. But I think you guys, when you were speaking to Lorenzo, said it best. We call it peaking at the right time, getting hot at the right time. I think that the ceiling for the Bills is sky high right now. They can go into Los Angeles, take care of business, beat the Patriots at home. Then they head to Miami, get the win there. Miami falters this week. Bills have a real shot to win the AFC East, get into the playoffs. We'll see how it ends up playing out for them, but I'd like to think that they are focused.
We talk a lot about transfer portal, NIL, all these things. Arch Manning, of course, the nephew of Peyton and Eli, reportedly has an NIL valuation of $3.2 million. Now, we don't know if he's making that exact amount at Texas right now. That is a huge number, and that is actually more than what Brock Purdy, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, and 8 other current NFL starters make. That puts things into perspective of what we're seeing right now in college football, if, in fact, that is what he is making. And I don't think it's that far-fetched to think he is making that at Texas.
Oh, he absolutely is.
Yeah.
I just got a little insight yesterday. I was kind of concerned. I told you that there were allegations, if you will. A player from K-State was paid a lot of money to leave, and you can Google that and figure that out yourself. And I was upset about it not because he didn't deserve the money, but in the way that I was told it happened. And I said, hey, what about Avery Johnson? True freshman starting quarterback. He just posted a brand new BMW. You can tell based on the driveway that he lives in a nicer neighborhood in my hometown. And I said, what's going on? They go, oh, Avery's making like high sixes, low million. And I said, with all the NIL deals. So if a quarterback at Kansas State is making high six figures, why wouldn't a Manning be making that much? I mean, didn't they buy him a Bentley when he was still in high school?
Well, and his family has all the money in the world too. It's not, he doesn't even need it, right? It's crazy to think about, and not just that, he's not played yet, right? Like even the quarterback you're talking about at K-State, these are guys who aren't starters currently that are making this much money. NIL and what it was supposed to be was a reward for your name, image, likeness because you are a star or helping contribute to a star program. So then you make money off the backs of that. And we knew it was going to become this. It's become, it's college football free agency, and now we can pay you under the guise of NIL and bring people over who either haven't done anything yet out of high school or even in this instance, guys who we think could be really good who haven't shown it yet for another college program. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I'm not sure. I think the verdict is still very out on Arch Manning, right? We know that Malik Murphy already transferred away. He was the backup for Quinn Ewers. I think it says a lot that Arch didn't play in his spot. And maybe that's because they're keeping their prized possession under wraps, or maybe he's just not ready. So Quinn Ewers is coming back next year. By all accounts, it looks like Arch will be his backup. I'm sure at some point in time we will see some moments from him. I know that everybody in Austin that I'm friends with that are big Longhorns fans are highly anticipating him. Here's my one caveat. Sometimes when we put this much pressure on 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, whatever they are, some of that can start to really come crashing down. So hopefully whoever's around Arch is giving him really good advice. Not only from a financial perspective, but from a life perspective, because those kind of things can start to spiral out of control and very, very quickly.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of collectives already who'd like a refund with certain guys, right? I mean, that's part of it too. It doesn't happen that way, but I'm sure there are plenty of instances where they didn't deliver or they turned their back on a commitment, or this stuff happens all the time. So much so that Nick Saban is saying, if you look around right now, the transfer portal is nothing more than college football free agency. Well, yeah, we know that, Nick. That's exactly what it is right now.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, it's very obvious, Nick. And
think about Nick Saban being the one to have to talk to players that come to him and try to argue for more money or try to, hey, I need this to stay because this program's offering me this.
But do you think that's who's actually doing it? So
No,
I've been doing some work with the
he's got to just wash his hands of it, right? And say, talk to someone else.
Yeah, these collectives we talked about the most important thing. And one of the collectives that I'm working with that is helping Kansas State. The thing that they really hit home with me was, hey, we need to retain. Yes, getting these guys. But now let's get them as, we got a kid out of Colorado, highly anticipated 4-star quarterback, right? He knows he's not going to be the starter next year. He knows he might not be the starter the second year or the third, but let's get him. Let's develop him, but let's retain. Retain is the key here. And I mentioned Nick's lost a ton of players to the portal over the last couple of years. If you look, there's a bunch of schools that are just hemorrhaging guys, and they're picking up kids out of high school, and they're doing that basically the inverse of what Deion Sanders is doing. But you can't pay everybody. Yeah, you're Alabama, you have a ton of money, but those big name players want big name checks. And sometimes there's crumbs left for other players. So they're going to go to smaller schools where they know that they can get paid or they know they can get more playing time. But there's a lot to this NIL. It's not just money. It's cars, it's houses, it's sales of merchandise. There is so much to the brand that I think it's still very, very wide open.
Yeah, and even FCS players are feeling the benefits of this. Cody Schrader at Missouri, from Truman State to Missouri, one of the best running backs in the SEC. Jared Verse from Albany to Florida State. Those guys are getting paid, right? They're getting paid. When they become a superstar at the FCS level, they're going to have opportunities at some of the bigger programs in America and in turn get paid that way too. So it's not just everyone in FBS football taking from the other or taking from lower levels of FBS. It's the top stars in FCS that are being rated as well.
And it's not just football. It's not just men's basketball. We have a couple of lady Wildcats, K-State women's basketball teams in the top 15. They all have new shirt deals. They all have new deals with different suppliers, car dealerships. We're seeing them all. I'm seeing them all over the place on social media. So, it's not just the male athletes getting paid. I mean, there are some other really prominent female athletes that I follow on social media. Saw one on a private jet the other day. I thought, I know she didn't have enough money to have a private jet, but some donor must have worked that into her NIL deal.
Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, their NIL valuations are right there with Arch Manning in certain instances. How much money do you think they're making right now to continue playing college basketball at that level? So no.
Leaps and bounds more than they will ever make in the WNBA.
Absolutely.
That's the reality. They are making more money now than they will go ahead and make in the WNBA. So that's great to see. I'm very happy for all of these kids to get paid because, again, when I was in college, it was terrible. You felt really bad because you were not allowed to have a job. You eat at the dining hall every single day. You don't have extra money, after you pay your rent. Let's say that you're only a partial scholarship player. It's tough. It really is. So I'm glad to see a lot of these guys going out there and making some money, albeit a little jealous. $3.2 million to play football. It's pretty awesome, Arch Manning.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Also not bad, our NFL Moneymaker Locks of the Week. Kelly, I'm going to fade you this week with mine. You like the Falcons. I love the Colts. Wrong team favored in this one. I got Colts right now at +2.5. Colts money line outright. Minshew Mania gets it done. My buddy Arthur Smith from his time here in Nashville, things start to look a lot worse for him with a loss in this game. But give me the Colts money line outright to beat the Falcons. Who are you going with?
You're going to make me pick just one.
Just pick your favorite child of your picks this week. Everybody likes to pick their favorite kid. Which one is your favorite?
So I'm actually, I didn't go over this one in the other segment because I wanted to save it for this one. And that is because the Arizona Cardinals are somehow going to go in to Chicago and win that football game. Friends, don't let friends lay points with the Chicago Bears. This is entirely too high of a number. Look, right here, non-divisional home favorites of 6 points or fewer. Chicago, 1-8 against the spread. They are terrible in this role, and they have been doing all right. Last couple of weeks, they've got a healthy Justin Fields, who I do believe they're going to bring back for next year. This team is not tanking, but neither are the Kyler Murray-led Cardinals. This team is better with him. We will see a very close game here. Maybe Chicago wins it, but they don't win it by 4 or more.
Kelly, quick answer. Are you in charge of food preparation for the family Christmas you're hosting?
I am always in charge. Ever since some random family member a couple of years ago on Thanksgiving put gravy all over the turkey without asking everybody, I said, enough. If I have to be here, I'm in charge.
God be with you. I'm sure the meal will be wonderful. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks so much for filling in. And Kelly will be back next week with Jonathan Hutton on Hot Mic as well. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of you out there. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe. Have fun.